We qualified, but I honestly don't think we played that well. Like, we have so much to improve. We made so many dumb mistakes, so many bad plays. I think if we can fix all those mistakes, like, yeah, I think we can honestly be one of the best teams in North America. I think this talent on this team, the aim, Subroza is the in-game leader. On Ascent against 100 Thieves at halftime on attack, he had 15 kills.
Oh, he's finally
What's
made
up,
it!
dudes?
NA number one! NA number one! NA number one!
Okay. All right. Now I
Get
remember.
Mitchman.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Valoranting. It's our 99th episode. You know what that means, chat? 99 episodes. They haven't been able to catch us. You know, we're at safe houses scattered across the country. Riot haven't been able to send their sleeper agents in to tear this whole thing down. That's right. You don't even know where UpMind is right now. We don't fuck about. We move from place to place. All right. We use code words. You know, how you doing, Vance? Good to have you here, man.
Doing great, man. Actually, some heavy action going on this weekend for Valorant. Overall, I'm just still trying to catch up to everything, but things have been busy lately, man. I've tried. What did I try most recently? I think I told you, right? I tried Snail. I did not try Dog. I don't think there's any way that I'm ever going to try Dog in Vietnam.
Huh? Come on. I would just rather that I didn't hear that and that I just pretended that that didn't happen. You know what I mean?
I agree.
I mean,
you know,
my dog has been missing from the show for a couple of weeks, right? But he's fine. He's fine. He's fine.
All right. I mean, yeah, so Val's obviously busy in Vietnam, trafficking shit memes. So hopefully he makes it back to Canada in one piece. UpMind, welcome to the show, man. Great to have you here. You've been busy, of course, with VCT. What's going on in your world, man?
Yeah, I mean, things have honestly been chilling otherwise. Currently, I'm actually processing a move over to Philly, so not too bad. I get to be closer to the NSG studios, but I mean, otherwise, just trying to do my thing while essentially waiting in between VCT stages.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of an interesting landscape for just if you're on VCT right now, because it's like feast or famine. I feel there's like a ton of games, a lot to be done at VCT, and then you know you always have that sort of period where you can at least live a life, I guess, in between. But
a little bit.
Before we'll talk about VCT, but obviously you and Sully have been covering plenty of these guys UpMind. What's some of your favorite moments so far of this VCT? We're only early days yet, but it's nice to be jumped back in so soon after Masters.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that we're getting so many teams that honestly deserve spots into that main stage. A lot of teams that have been working a lot more than others actually getting to that group stage was a lot cooler to see. But it was more like, again, the run up to this entire VCT stage this year was, you know, again, so many changes in comparison to last year in terms of players. And yeah, to be honest, me and Sully, we've just been way more excited to actually talk to players more. I went to LAN a few weeks ago, just out of my way. I didn't cast it or anything. I just went up to Philly to go see the XX guys and Complexity guys. And I mean, from what it seems, I mean, I think every player currently in NA just is at a really high confident point individually. But just a lot of teams are really needing to find like some comfortable spots. And I feel like that's been the funnest part about 2022 so far, man.
Fucking Masters, man. You haven't got a chance to gloat to Mitch about this. I kind
of he's been finding excuses not to come on a show every fucking week since we won Masters.
Yeah, listen, he's in hiding right now. You know what I mean? Even though
wait, he hasn't been able to gloat. He hasn't been able to say anything.
No?
Actually, no.
I'm still waiting.
Interesting.
You know, here's what I get the sense of, right, is that NA is we have like such different storylines each time we get into a VCT. I feel like last VCT it was about the Mickey Meow teams that came up and really sort of showed the old guard that like putting in the work really pays off in a big way, and that they were able to be ahead of the curve. Now I feel like we're starting to see those like, you know, semi-decrepit teams like stitched together, starting to, you know, make their sort of resurgence, right? Those teams, those bigger names, finally starting to get those results again.
A little bit. I mean, we literally had like TSM, 100 Thieves, FaZe Clan, all three teams that you could kind of consider around that region, like actually making top 8 runs. So I mean, not too wrong to be honest. Seeing so many mismatches just kind of work out for teams is kind of interesting. Again, I just don't know how main stage is going to go down. Again, last year was very confusing to see how teams actually went down, but again, things are so much more even this year. I just have no clue like who's going to be in like a top 4 region or not.
Uber, you always look good, by the way.
You what?
You always look good, by the way.
Oh,
nice haircut.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I mean, haircut, technically. It's all party in the back, by the way.
Oh, shit. You actually managed to... Dude, how did you... Damn. It's very compressible, your hair. I'm very impressed.
See, that's the thing. It's range. I was explaining it the other day to Jackie, where it's Brazilian hair. It curls out very easily. It grows out very easily, at least on my side of the family. But from like at least slicking it back. My dad's always been able to. I've taken at least tips from him. A little gel, a little bit, just a
Okay,
little
a
bit, just to
little.
keep it down a little bit. But otherwise, pretty easy process.
Oh, I always notice it because obviously you're in front of a green screen, right? And you green screen the background.
There's
but
always an
because you're-
aura.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a halo around your hair of green. I love it. All right, let's talk about topics for today as well. We're hanging out.
Oh, we're gonna
too
talk
much,
about a
so we
show.
wanna-
Yeah, let's do that.
Vibes are good.
All right, so, I mean, we're really lucky because obviously TSM have been spending some time trying to make it into that top echelon once more. Big changes to their team. I mean, there's been change. But we're going to have a great chance to talk with Juv3nile, their head coach. And obviously, it's been good news for TSM this past weekend, but it wasn't. I mean, it was a more circuitous route to that sort of success for them. We're going to discuss that, of course, excuse me, with their coach. Following our VCT qualifiers, because obviously, UpMind is, particularly qualified to help us sort of sift through that. We're going to talk about next year's plan for franchising, which is fascinating to me. Someone who looks at a lot of these like league structures and tries to see how it makes sort of any sense. And I think Valorant's been quite unique in general in that regard. So we're going to talk about that. And then, of course, the patch notes. Bear in mind that Fade will be available, in the group stages of VCT. So not quite yet, but it's patch 4.0, mate. There's changes we need to discuss. So Sova and Jet as well have faced a lot of changes. Sorry, Average Jonas. So that's what we're going to be covering on the show.
Are you
and
kidding
hopefully
me?
What?
In 99 episodes, you finally went over the timer.
I didn't go over the time. That was perfect. I stuck the landing.
No, we still have to talk about game changers.
Did you hear the... Mate, I have 3 topics to discuss on that thing.
Did you do it?
Ian? There was 3 topics on that slider, yeah? Yeah. Do you really think, mate, that they would have just cut
Vans.
a topic if I'd gone over? Fuck no. They would have kept going and played an annoying klaxon, some beeping sound at me. Just some...
Okay,
All
fine.
right.
I'll give it to
Mate,
you. I'll give it to you.
I had it fit in there perfectly. Okay, let's talk about VCT qualifiers here. We've got UpMind obviously to help us talk about it. We're also going to be bringing in Juv3nile, head coach from TSM. For I think it's the first time on this show. So great to have you here, Juv3nile. How's it going, buddy?
Pretty good, thanks guys. I'm really excited to be on the show with you guys for sure.
Hell yeah.
Let's get this out of the way. You and Vans kind of go way back, right? We were talking about this at the start of the show. You guys got some history. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see. So, because I remember I used to be a fan of Vansilli when he was casting back in the day. So, I remember when I was casted season 5, Calo, grand finals, and back in 2004, give or take. He is the first time he casted me, and I remember being so excited to watch that back.
Call of Duty 1 PC only. Before Call of Duty was even known on
Excuse me,
Xbox
I was like
and
3
PS.
years old, guys. Like, what?
Yeah, we're old.
Are you
I was about
kidding
to say
me?
Gus do the thing, but he didn't need to be fucking told. Yeah, 3 years old. Yeah, well, I was 12. There you go. Didn't even. I was living in the country and never even touched a fucking PC.
And I love how
I'm pretty sure.
95% in this chat have no idea what Cal is. And then also, fuck you, Scoots, for saying Vance's one fan is Juv3nile.
Hey, listen, he's been deplatformed, Vans.
True.
With the breakdown not happening anymore, he needs to blow off some steam in some way. You just fucking
True.
miss me, Scott. That's all. He has to
Respect,
use the chat
Scoots.
now.
Respect.
Not nearly respect hard. Fucking hell. Let's have a look at the brackets here, okay? Obviously, TSM are very involved in VCT right now, obviously trying to qualify again. This is obviously our first qualifier. This is our upper bracket, excuse me. So for those that, were following along, this is the Open Qualifier 1, and there'll be an Open Qualifier 2. Both will feed into a group stage of 12 teams. Right now already, Cloud9, Xset, Optic, The Guard already qualified. And through the Open Qualifier, we have 4 more teams that have made their way into the group stage. Okay. So obviously it's double elimination from round of 32 onwards, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
this is the lower bracket here, and obviously you can sort of see the teams that have been able to qualify. TSM here end up dropping down. It's a tight game against 100 Thieves to put themselves in that position after a bit of a heartbreaker against FaZe Clan, which is where FaZe Clan sort of qualify here. So let's stay high level here, right? And let's talk a little bit about TSM's journey. Obviously, Juv3nile, you've been with the team for a little while now, and obviously, it took a fair bit to get this team in shape, right? I mean, just from an outsider's perspective, definitely looked like some difficult decisions when it comes to things like roster changes and trying to determine sort of the direction for this team. I know a lot of people were really surprised to see maybe Wardell not practicing with the team and sort of, filling in sort of elsewhere. Obviously, right now, the roster is Subroza, Corey, GMD, Rossi, and 7, obviously, one of the newer additions. So, obviously, with GMD being the newest addition, tell us a bit about how you got to this look of the roster and what you were looking for in some of these newer additions.
Yeah. So I mean, we pretty much started out with Lecco and Wardell instead of GMD and Seven when I joined, and the team was already sort of like, you could already tell it needed a change just from the last VCT. And Matt had already checked out and stuff like that. But when he cares and he's on, he's obviously like he's probably the best op in NA. I don't think it's a question.
Okay.
Like I think he missed maybe 3 shots the entire time I was there. Like actually does not miss. And then Aleko, he obviously made a name for himself on Ascent as Sova and Odin, and he helped them win a lot of big games. But I think just when I came over, it just needed to be a change with the team and the environment, so that everyone had that same motivation that they had at the beginning of the game. You know what I mean? More than
Yep.
anything, you have to put in the time, you have to put in the work, and you have to be disciplined. And that's one of the big things that we're still working on is just overall discipline for our team.
I thought Levi made a name for himself after all the Twitter drama he had between him and Rossi.
He's definitely known for a lot of Twitter drama and drama with pro players in general. That's for sure.
I did not. I missed that, to be honest with you.
Oh
Perhaps
no, it
that's,
was some. I would like to call it some fun trash talk. I love both
Okay.
of those guys, but it did seem overall that TSM did need some sort of a change in terms of like getting some good roles to fit into like new players, because also when Rossi first joined, he was already coming in as a smoke player in the beginning and also IGLing, but now I think at some point you even trialed Kempeki, right? Who eventually ended up with Sentinels, but now TSM picks up GMD and TSM picks up Seven, of course, as you mentioned, Wardell checking out. But I think Seven's been a great replacement to Wardell, and I think Wardell has been a great replacement to as stand-in rather for version 1 to replace Whippy as well. So I think that's pretty cool. And the other thing that's cool is that apparently you guys have double IGLing rules now with Subroza and GMD together. How does that work?
Yeah, so mostly Subroza calls attack side, and we've gotten a lot better at giving him the space to call, and I think that's one of the biggest improvements that we've made as a team is giving Subroza the chance to be an in-game leader and to read the game the way he can, because he can read the game honestly really 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 well. I'm sure that comes from his time playing under in-game leaders like Still and FNS back in the day. He picked up a lot, and he knows how to read the game. And GMD's come in as our defensive sided caller, and it's more so like general setups or like he'll call like retakes and what we're doing for a retake, and that's helped a ton because Subroza is less of a micromanager. And sometimes you in this game, there's just so many things that can happen, so many things that can go wrong that it helps when you have someone helping micromanage those intense situations for sure.
So getting into these games, I guess if we could talk about TSM, I think for me, what the biggest thing right now, before even talking about the games, is also the compositions in itself, right? Because when GMD comes in, the video hyping up that he's an Omen player, but for a lot of other maps, he's also playing some Breach. So if you're looking at a meta before we have the introduction of Fade later on in the group stages, is most of the times when you have double initiator, it's like a Sky Sova, a Sova KO, and maybe some Breach here and there on Haven now.
Is this
But
a role
TSM
change
in
for
general-
Subroza really quickly?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Because he's playing more controller basically.
Yeah, so he was
Correct.
playing Astra when I joined the team. He had already moved to Astra on a few maps, I believe. And so he's
Okay.
been controller. And obviously he has experience from Omen way back in the day. So the biggest change was him becoming the full game in-game leader. I think before I got here, they sort of were starting the transition. But when I got here, we just made it a finalized thing. We finalized changing roles because I come from Overwatch. I come from Counter-Strike. So I have a good idea of different roles and like what player strengths are and like how that fits certain roles. And for me, especially in this game, flexibility is everything. Like if you can play, like right now we have 4 people who can play duelist. We have 4 people who can play flex, maybe even 5 people that can play flex. Like that's the kind of team that I would always want to build, is because especially as you go on future and future as more and more this game goes on, like you're gonna need people changing comps and changing agents, changing roles, like game to game. Maybe not quite like as much as Liquid does, but at the very least, like changing agents game to game for sure.
I mean, it's in the
seen that with
fucking
what you've
name,
done
really,
with the
isn't it?
crew.
Say that again.
Just to cut Mitch, I mean that's what we saw with the crew when you were
Yep.
coaching that team as well, with what those boys were doing from map to map.
I mean, didn't
Yeah.
they have like one of the longest winning streaks in NA,
Yeah,
right?
we won 34 in a row for sure. And I mean a lot of it was tier 2, But as you guys saw with the qualifier, tier 2 wasn't easy back then, I
Yeah.
mean, it's still not
Mm-mm.
easy now. Like all the teams are good. As you guys saw in VCT, basically round of 32 onward, anybody can win, dude. You can
RNG,
get upset by anybody at round of 32
100%.
onward. 100%.
So you guys play 100 Thieves twice, obviously, which is just I think a very probably pretty good for this tournament, and I think a lot of people are really interested in this. UpMind, I want to get your thoughts here on sort of how you sort of felt, this matchup was approached, like how you felt about 100 Thieves and TSM respectively, with all their changes being made coming into this, because it's quite an exciting match to cover. I think you get it twice as sort of well. I don't know if you cast this first one, but
No.
I'd love to get your thoughts as someone who was obviously watching and looking over these matches.
Yeah, at least when we saw TSM on that second game, I was a lot more interested to see how they were actually changing up their split. If I'm not mistaken, you guys ended up changing up their comp. So I mean, just from that example alone, you could already see that that TSM already being proactive and trying to change things essentially overnight against 100 Thieves. We had almost the same pool against them too. But what we ended up seeing on Icebox was again just a little bit more of that, like just some more map domination from TSM, especially on the defensive side, just a little bit more. What I did like, though, was how much space TSM was actually taking a lot more on D side in comparison to what we were seeing before. Because to be honest, the calling side for TSM just used to be a lot more fluid, used to be a bit more aggressive, not so much disciplined. And we weren't seeing, just kind of unwilling map control. I think we were seeing a lot more of an organized approach from TSM. 100 Thieves, they were running out of a lot of space to actually make their attacks later on in rounds. So, yeah, I mean, it had to come down to some small factors, really, between both 100T and TSM at the very end of that game. So, I mean, again, to be honest, 100T still could have been able to take it. If I'm not mistaken, there was actually a big comeback at the end where TSM actually gave up 5 rounds in a row, and it was just off of a reset. So, yeah, again, close game. But TSM, they still looked really good in terms of just the overnight conversion.
I mean, yeah, that's such an interesting factor, I think, to press on a bit. Juvenile, how did it feel for you guys? Obviously, having to play this team sort of twice in sort of fairly quick succession and in both sort of very important games. How do you feel like you matched up against them sort of, both times, and what adaptations you felt you had to make?
Yeah, definitely split. And it's not even like we're that bad at split. Like we've played other teams in split, and it's been close. So we win in practice. We win most of the time. But against 100 Thieves, like I think they're just really good at that map. That honestly really might be like their map right now. And I don't know if anyone in NA outside of maybe the top teams, aka Optic and C9 and stuff like that, can maybe beat them on that map. But I don't think there's any team in any of these qualifiers that was going to beat them on split, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
And then as far as like the adjustments and stuff, like I don't like playing teams back to back. Like I wanted to play Knights just because I don't like playing teams like that you just beat, because the onus on them to make the changes and make the adjustments, right? Because you won, right? So there's only a few things that you can change versus they have so much different things that they can talk about. But we did a good job adjusting on our Ascent, in particular the third map. Their icebox was just random. I don't think they've played it. They haven't played it in months, in a match at least.
Yep.
And so I doubt they had much time to practice it. We definitely let them get back into it when we shouldn't have on Icebox. And then Ascent, I feel like we've made really good adjustments on our CT side to sort of shut down what worked for them last time, which was just rushing us. They just rushed mid B every fucking round, is what it felt like. And so we made some adjustments. Yeah, we made some adjustments to stop that, and it felt like once we did that, they didn't really have an answer for our Ascent.
Let's stick to that for now, actually, to talk specifically about Ascent, because for me, watching TSM play on this map, I had a little bit of question marks in terms of like the comp in itself, right? As like, okay, no Jet anymore from Corey, or Raze is coming out. There's a Breach from GMD, as I mentioned before. Lots of Breach being played now from Gimo into the team. But I do see some cool nifty stuff that you guys did. I think it was like even pissed around on defense, where GMD tries to take catwalk presence, and once he has that and realizes that he's not getting pressured, fault lines into A main so that the other two guys, Subroza and I think Rossi, could peek out and get those kills into wine when you realize you were getting pressure there. But for me, looking at the Raze on the attack, aside from like the double satchel charges into an A site hit, I don't see the real value behind using this agent on the attack side, with maybe a side the paint shells to throw into like tree hits or into like spawn site hits for B, or into market hits for B site hits, right? Is there any more value outside of those paint shells for Raze on this map?
I mean, there's a lot of value in the fact of just the boom bot, right? So because like
Mm.
I think you even mentioned it earlier, or someone had mentioned it, because we're playing chamber instead of killjoy. Taking control of the B main solo as a chamber is difficult unless you're just hitting crazy shots, right? So like
Mm.
if they use util, you don't have anything really there to stop them. So one of the ideas was, because of the boom bot and stuff like that, that 7 should be able to get posted B main most of the time.
Mhm.
And so there's definitely value to the agent as a whole. Like I honestly think our comp was the best comp on Ascent, to be honest with you. Like we lost the
Mhm.
phase on it, but outside of that, we haven't lost the map.
Mhm.
And that's including practice. Like in practice, I don't think we had below like 4 rounds or below 8 rounds ever on defense. Ever, like no matter how bad the half started, we never
TSM.
had less than 8. And so like I honestly think the comp is really good. Like I know a lot of people don't like it, but on that map in particular, the meta became heavy mid fighting, and our comp
Yep.
just fights mains. Like we can win the main fight every single time. No one can stop us in a main fight at this point.
I just wanted to ask real quick. Now that you just straight up mentioned Ascent, the game versus LG, what exactly were some issues, at least on that attacking side? Because I know you guys ended up playing pretty much that. At least against LG, just wasn't the best in that first
Yeah,
set.
your
That's all I
attacking
just
rounds,
gotta
it felt
say.
like you guys couldn't get much started up on Ascent against LG.
Yeah. I honestly can't remember exactly what happened. I want to say they controlled mid really well against us, and I think we sort of like we had played FaZe right before that and lost, and FaZe like sort of like hard countered what we did. And so did LG. They sort of like hard countered like fighting the mains with KO and stuff like that. And once we
Mhm.
couldn't fight the mains, we're forced to go mid, and then at that point our comp isn't
That
as
comp
good
is
because
hard to play against.
Jet's not as good as Raze in mid, right?
Yep.
So or I mean Raze isn't as good as Jet, I should say, in mid.
On mid, yeah.
So yeah, so once we're forced out of the mains there, like yeah, they just picked us apart at that point.
Yeah. There was
Ye-
probably against that in that LG game, maybe like 2 rounds where so for me, as you just to tie the knot as well, as you're talking about trying to set up 7, right? With the utility from Corey, I could sort of see that in the LG game, and also especially on the attacker side, 7 is more of like becoming like even a clutch player for TSM on that very matchup, on that very map, because I think like round number 10 and number 11, he almost clutched like a 4v2 and then a 2v1 or something like that, and unfortunately fell short. And then finally actually wins one in round number 12 to get you guys like that second round there or third round into that map or into that half, which is why I see like the idea of it. But as you mentioned, like this is probably your best comp, but I still find that it was hard for you guys to find that flow on your attacker side to be able to get that type of execution that you want from your Raze.
Yeah, I think sort of what happened too. I'm looking at the scoreboard. Sort of what happened. We lost bonus round. You lost pistol. You lost bonus. At that point, you're down 4-0. It's just hard. They have ult advantage on the 5th round normally. So 5th round you lose 5th, and your eco again on the 6th. And at that
And it's
point,
MR12.
yeah, it's over. It's
Yeah.
over. And that's sort of the thing about this game, right? Like
Mhm.
it's random, but it's random because of stuff like that. Like if you lose the bonus, like I remember the stat back in, I think it was Champions or something like that. Someone had posted a stat. If you win the bonus round, you win the match 80% of the time, straight
Yeah,
up. As soon as
yeah.
you win the bonus round, you win 80% of the time. And so it's just when you lose that, you lose an eco. Like if you see also too on the second half, we got ecoed the second round. And so stuff like that, you can't win making those kind of mistakes against teams at this level for sure.
We can let's shift a little bit to talk about this LG team because they also qualified. They do it through the sort of lower bracket. I guess Juv, I mean, you're in a great spot here to sort of give us how you felt about this team and what you felt like LG's strengths were having played against them, if you can remember back that far, of course. Because this is obviously a team that this isn't the first time that they've fucked with V1. Actually, in recent memory, they fucked them up with the Masters quals, I think, and sent them to the lower bracket. So, where do you think this team is sort of positioned right now? Because Luminosity, with the more recent addition of, I think it was Dazzle, right? And obviously coming from Ghost Gaming here, we sort of wondered where they'd be. It looked like they're a great spoiler team. They haven't really been able to sort of get past their first few rounds here. But how do you feel going up against them?
Yeah, that team in general, before this qualifier, went as B-Dog went. If B-Dog played well, they could beat anybody. And like he's sort of the X factor because I remember watching that V1 match and I remember telling people if he drops 25 on the third map, I think LG's gonna win. And he did. He had 25 or 26 exactly, and LG won 13-11 or whatever it was. And so like he's just a difference maker. He's very impressive with the op. He really knows how to position himself as Chamber and Jet. And I think the big difference for them this qualifier and one of the reasons why they have looked so strong. So like when we beat them,
Mata
B-Dog
for
didn't
me.
play well. But yes, Mata has been playing amazing. And it's been really impressive. If he can keep up that level of play through like the thing, dude, they can definitely be a top 4 team in NA, like no question.
Yeah. What I actually like about Mata too on his raised play on Bind is his his capability, sorry, of being able to move with the satchel charges. As I
Yeah.
gave a lot of credit to Cloud9, for example, with Zeppa when he double satchel charges from spawn side into showers. Mata is another one of those players that could do that very consistently on this map now. And I think his other strength is the way that he's able to flex. So, Juvie, you talk about how you want some players to have a little bit more depth into their agent pool. And Mata on other maps, for example, like on Ascent, is now playing a KO. And his KO has been on point right now for this team. Where even I think it was against was it the Sentinels games? I can't really remember which one it is because there's been so many games. But he's been having multi-frags after multi-frags too. Well, I guess maybe it's against version 1 as well because they end up playing against version 1 this very map too. So I think Mata has been a great. He's found some great form actually for within this team ever since Nbox leaving Nbox. And LG, I think for me, has to become that team that you have to stop sleeping on their success. You know, I think when we first talked about how good LG was at the beginning of the year of like 2021 before all the roster changes, I think they still have that great, tremendous firepower. And because they're so good with so much upset potential, they never really make it far enough to be like, oh shit, they're going to qualify for a Masters or something, right? But they always have the skill set to be able to upset
They're a
anybody.
bubble
So
team, I think.
Yeah.
they're like an X set, for example. They're like an X set. It's like, oh, LG won, cool. But are they going to go further into qualifying somewhere?
Dude,
Maybe not yet,
I had
you know?
exit making Iceland, bro. I'm a fucking
That's what I'm saying, you know? Like, they have what it takes on paper, but sometimes it's just like some other hump that they can't get over to just continue to have fans talk about this team.
So, all right, let's flip the coin then and talk about V1. Obviously, they got Wardell filling in, right? So, you know, that is an issue and makes it a little bit harder to evaluate this team, but we're going to try and do it anyway. You know, is there, I guess, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, UpMind, as well. Is there anything, you know, if we can put the Wardell factor aside and maybe ask what is going on with this team and, you know, is there anything that we need to see from them before they can sort of put themselves into the positions that maybe LG's finding themselves in and getting back to that number 1, number 2 position that they did hold?
Yeah, I think version 1, they weren't exactly having too many issues. Actually, there were a lot of maps where they had just a lot of question marks on, like especially Fracture, where we just didn't know how Wardell would be able to factor in. He actually ended up playing more or less in the same style that we ended up seeing of Whippy, where again he would be taking a lot of space back over towards Arcade, and it was also the same thing over towards Bind, where they were still able to use double duelist and also double flashes, allowing Wardell just to chill out on Chamber. So again, version 1, they are actually making the right moves to just keep their players comfortable. But I think that realistically, 1 or 2 things change for version 1. They already qualify. So I don't realistically think that the team actually has too many issues. The roster is really solid right now, even though they're using Wardell instead of Whippy, one of the best Sentinels in NA.
But I think the thing for me too is Wardell was, of course, the replacement to Whippy, but Wardell definitely played his role really well as a chamber. And I think also the other bigger question mark as well is, okay, well, if Wardell is going to replace Whippy, my issue as well with Wardell in the past was like he doesn't play a sentinel role, right? He doesn't, aside from chamber, of course, but he doesn't play Killjoy. So if version 1 has to play a map like Ascent, for example, where Whippy usually plays a Killjoy, except most recently, I think when they played against Optic, Whippy pulled out the chamber. If they need to pull out a Killjoy at some point, can Wardell play it? We didn't get into that scenario, but I still think that when they still had to play on Ascent, they still looked very good. I think overall for version 1, even if you look at all the scores where they've lost, they didn't lose badly, right? It's all like 13-11s. It's all overtime losses. They just had like a tough break that they just couldn't get the victory in the end. And I don't think it was necessarily Like, if I looked at how version 1 played during the group stages, for example, they were known to be very fast, explosive, utility dump, and play a lot of pulse plant while still saving some utility to play pulse plants, right? And then when they play defense, then it's just unloading a lot of utility to play the retake, right? That said, if Wardell is going to be playing the chamber, they're
Yeah.
missing that agent, for example, from KJ Molly's or Lockdown to be able to overthrow the amount of utility that they can play on the utility dump for the retake. Um, but I still find that from Firepower's perspective on paper and within these games, it still looked very good for version 1. I just maybe think, unfortunately, it's Zelsis maybe that didn't pop off as much as we know Zelsis is able to pop off for. And I think that's like that small hump that was needed from version 1 to be able to get it
Yeah,
right.
again, you weren't sorry, you were wrong about the replacements, by the way. We just saw so many agent replacements from Wardell. Again, just holding on to the chamber that before used to be so heavily reliant on utility. It was KO picks that he was replacing on Icebox. When I think he was on Ascend, he was replacing a KJ. So again, totally right. On retakes, they were looking a little bit lost. And again, Wardell, he has so much impact in terms of frags that it still makes sense to keep him on. But
Exactly.
there is so much more freedom that this team can have if they could play around with their comp just a little bit more.
Yeah, obviously they still have another chance. There's another qualifier for them to go into. Obviously, what? So he's not in the country, right? That's
Correct.
the issue.
He was working
Yeah.
his visa so that he could get a visa extension back in the States. I think he's gotten it now, which means he should be playing into the Open Qualifiers #2, which is why you saw that tweet from Wardell after of thanking like the opportunity to be able to play for version 1. And,
Yeah.
you know, you got to give it to the guy too, though, right? If you follow Matt on socials, it's been kind of rough for him
Yeah.
with what's been going on outside of the game, more in terms of like his like personal finances and stuff. So for him to still be able to keep a good mind into within the match,
Is that how you describe flipping NFTs?
I mean, he's
He
lost
also
a
got
little money.
he also got all of his stuff stolen. You know that, right?
Yeah, that's
his
a tough
entire
part.
wallet got stolen.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's
his
the
entire
main
crypto
issue.
wallet got stolen. Yeah, so Wardell, I mean, yeah, it's not just flipping NFTs at this point. He doesn't even
It's
have the
losing
ability to do so.
Yeah.
that's insane. Oh wait,
Yeah.
hold on. Was it just did he just get involved in a pump and dump and then?
Yes.
No, his
Apparently from
his
the
wallet got
Catalina whale
hacked.
pump when he bought
wait.
something like that, and then his account got hacked as well.
Oh,
Okay.
And then he lost it. Like I think he put a lot of investments into it in terms of
Yeah.
like, because I think at some point he tweeted out like, I put my life savings into this, and then he
Jeez.
lost all that, right? So
You've
there's
got you got to be so careful with that shit, man.
exactly. So it gets draining at that point, and I don't want to dwell into that storyline because it really fucking sucks for Matt. But I think
Yeah, no, it does.
for him to still be able to have those multi-frag rounds as that chamber to help out the team, to see that
Yeah.
version 1 almost qualified thanks to Wardell, because even if you watch games for version 1, he's pulled them out of like some tough
Yeah.
situations in
I mean-
many rounds, which he's done for TSM before too, right? So I think
there
that's
are people there who would probably like enjoy his downfall just because they fucking dogmatically hate DeFi and NFTs, but that is really horrible, and it's a warning to everybody just to be so careful with that stuff. You know, it's fucking.
or just because they love watching the meme of this TSM play and just watching. The
Yeah,
memes,
see,
right?
people love it. Anytime people see someone losing money on NFTs, they just fucking jerk themselves off about it. So sad. Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully Wardell can find some sort of closure there, even if not be able to recoup that investment. All right. So let's move on and talk about a surprising storyline from these qualifiers, right? NRG, after sort of making a surprising change, obviously getting rid of Android, a team we kind of considered to have a lot of insane individuals, and Android obviously was definitely one of them. They bring in Ethan from this 100 Thieves roster. You know, Android got benched, and you know, we really felt like, wow, there's some insane power fraggers on this particular roster, right? So we're thinking, okay, these guys can do work, and it didn't really seem to gel. And I think like a lot of people were wondering what the future was like for Tex, for example, like whether he was going to be still a mainstay of that roster, still sort of expected to sort of try and deliver. What were your guys' reactions when you saw about this roster change? You know, did it make sense? Was it surprising? How did it affect your outlook for this team going forward?
I was mentioning before we actually went live too, is I felt that there was an overlap in roles between text and Android. I think overall, if you think about it, maybe on paper, sometimes in terms of like who could aim better. Usually, most of the time, people will talk about Android just because he's been like this star player with Andbox before, and then has had some like flash in the pan with energy as well. But the thing is Tex was put in a position where he has to play some KO so that Android could play some chamber. But then if you're going to try to bring in Ethan into the mix, and you haven't really seen Android play like some KO before, then you know that you have some sort of like a deeper agent pool with Tex in the mix right now for energy in the long run, which is why I think it fits and suits a little bit more into energy on multiple maps to have Tex being able to just fill that role as a flex if needed be. If it comes to a point where after a couple of games, Ethan maybe is not fit to play, for example, the flex role then could go into a smoke role, and then Hayes goes into a Sentinels. Like, there's a lot of shit that you could do with that within this comp now as well. So I think if you think about it more of like a holistic view, it makes more sense now why Android got cut. But I definitely don't think it's because of skills, because Android
No.
definitely has it. And Tex now filling like is the one that's able to stay within this team. He's also been playing very well for this team.
Yeah, just real quick. Again, Android used to be just straight up one of the best Sentinels in NA. He started off playing flex between Sage, KJ, Viper. He was the originator of Viper for a very long time. And this team, NRG very specifically, they needed his presence on this team. They needed that sort of organization. They needed that rock, especially on maps like Split, where Energy just couldn't find out really a good flow, and really a lot of teams couldn't. It was a great counterpick for Energy for a long time. And I mean, that's just sort of the value that Android's been able to provide this team for so long, and especially the switch over to KO, where he's been able to prove himself in a role where Tex has been pretty damn good. Again, just a lot of question marks, because again, it wouldn't really surprise me if Tex was actually the one replaced by Ethan. But again,
Right.
Ethan is still a great talent, and of course, Android is too. So NRG, they had to make a pretty tough decision there. But Ethan, individually speaking, at least in the role that NRG are putting Ethan in, he is objectively going to be better than Android. Android is still that
Exactly.
specialist, still a great defensive specialist, but Ethan comes up way bigger on the attacking side than you would expect Android to.
Yeah, I mean, Ethan's such an interesting player to me, because I remember when he sort of first started, right? A lot of players got put on Sentinel, right, when they first came
Yeah.
across to Valorant. He was on Omen straight off the bat on that 100 Thieves roster, and everyone was like, "What's going on with this guy? Like, is this going to work? Is this going to stick?" And I mean, he's still here. He has he has a pretty good series, and he seems like he's settling okay. Like, what's the ceiling for this NRG roster now that we've sort of seen results like this? Granted, right, I'm not saying they got an easier road through, but they go up against that V1 that is limping a little bit, obviously, while having to sort of, and Wardell said it in his tweet, guys. He's like, look, hard to sub in with like a practice and all this sort of stuff here. But what do we feel about this NRG roster going forward? It's a clean 8-0 to get into closed. How are they going
Yeah.
to stack up there?
So to be honest, man, I think as we talk about version 1 that didn't have that much practice going into the open quals, I also think Energy also didn't have that much practice going to quals. Preston, I'll let you talk about it first, because you mentioned to us before as well that as soon as Ethan joined, they went through some comp changes already.
Yeah. I think they were in the middle of role changing even before Ethan became available, and then Ethan became available and they hopped on it right away, which makes sense, right? It's a Counter-Strike team. He's a top 5 NA Counter-Strike player. Any Counter-Strike level team would pick him up in Valorant, no questions asked, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's sort of why it happened. I was also surprised that it was Android instead of Tex, because Android I thought was probably the best rifling chamber in NA, to be honest with you. And like you guys said, he's obviously really, really good at Killjoy also. And so I was a little surprised, but there's no denying, like, regardless of how Tex did in the last VCT qualifiers, like stats wise, the aim didn't go anywhere. He still has insane aim.
Yeah.
And so putting him on characters like Chamber and Killjoy, where it is like it's a stationary character, you get to just use your aim for the most part. I definitely think it's in a scenario he can flourish for sure. And then Ethan, I think for him, he just needs consistency. Like since he's come over, he switched roles, switched agents. He's been
Yeah.
switching tons and tons of stuff. You know what I mean? And I think if he can just stay within a G 3-4 months, play a consistent role, I think you guys will see a special Ethan and a really good energy for sure.
Yeah. And to get back on the topic where I think energy is going to be, because I was one of those guys. First off, for clickbaits, I didn't have Optic making out of groups
Mhm.
into like the playoffs into the NAVCTs, because I had to put Rise in there because it's the Vietnamese squad, right?
Uh-huh.
But I had Energy in there because I saw that they had a lot of potential. And from what I saw from Energy in their game versus, because they still played against some tough teams. They played against Knights, and they had to play against version 1 to try to qualify into this current stage. And Knights, we've seen how good they were the last stage, and version 1, of course, they went 5-0 in their stage. So it's not easy teams. So when they played against when they played against Knights, for example, on Fracture, what I did like from Energy was new flair, right? Because they pulled out like the optic comp. I was like, okay, well, they pull out the optic comp with the neon. Are they going to play very similarly to optic? They did not. I think what was nice from Energy was that they had some really nice set plays into dish control with the neon, the breach, and I think it was the KO as well, just to try to take dish control in the first place from utility usage there, and then going with great rolling thunder, or should I say, like even like a dash into spawn site with a breach flash, so that Som could get some ground control into spawn. So there's already like some small tweaks and changes that, with not enough practice or a lower time of practice, they're still able to put some good strats together for Fracture. And then what I liked from what I saw in Icebox, for example, when they won against version 1 and 13-11, was how they're able to adapt. Because version 1 had the lead of that game the whole time until they realized that they had a lot of opportunities to take advantage of mid control on the attacker side. And once they started plowing a lot on mid side, version 1 didn't have an answer to that. They get 2 plants on B side, they win on time, and in the last round, they go for a full site take on A side, and then there's a late lurk from Hayes from mid side to get the last 2 kills for Energy to win the round. So now you're starting to see resiliency, and also an opportunity that Energy is able to adapt on the fly and to be able to win those rounds. So I think the potential of this team is actually pretty good. And the Knights, unfortunately, I think they had a little bit of an easier run on Bind, because Knights decided to use a Neon on Bind, and that did not work out well at all.
We'll get onto that, because I want to poll you all on some of our honorable mentions so far for this. But the last team that qualified obviously made it through the upper bracket here, and it's one that Juvie is obviously pretty familiar with after this run in. It was FaZe Clan, another team that spent a decent amount of time rebuilding, right? The roster's now Baby Bay, Dicey, Poise, Poach, Superman. Let's get into this, because obviously, we talked about the Ascent gameplay. I think we talked about it against 100 Thieves as well, and just how you guys felt a little bit countered maybe through the middle part of the map here, Juvie. So tell us about this map and sort of the struggles you encountered here.
Yeah, honestly, so more than any team, these guys are probably the most prepped out of any team we've played, as far as even counter stratting. Their analysts obviously did a really good job. On every map that we played, they knew almost exactly what we were going to do, and you could tell that they were playing, to counter us essentially. And so that was definitely a really good job by them. And then when Baby Bay and Dicey are playing like that, dude, like
That's it.
those guys were
It's
plus
over.
20 every BO3. Yeah. If that happens, then they're gonna beat everybody, right? But as we saw with masters and stuff like that, it is hard to rely on your duelists to do that consistently, and so that's a little bit of a worry. But I mean, dude, if they can support them to get them to do that every single time, like those guys can beat anybody,
Yeah.
at any time for sure.
That,
Uh,
go
yeah,
ahead,
yeah, go
Preston.
ahead.
Continue. Sorry.
No, yeah. The biggest thing just with this end, like I said, they definitely had us countered, I think. And then I honestly, we should have won Haven. The third map, we were up 12-11,
Yeah.
and Dicey gets a 3K from back garage and never TPs. Like, who does that, dude? Who does that? You know what I mean? Like, I had nightmares about that entire round, that entire night. I'm so glad that we qualified, because it makes it irrelevant, right? So.
Jeez.
No, I agree. I think looking back at that match of FaZe and TSM, just watching FaZe in the first place, as you guys mentioned, where Baby Bay and Dicey both dropped 20 kills and plus, and then the rest are still under like 10 frags. It shows how Dicey's back into like his 100 these days, whereas like Dicey and Asuna. If Asuna can't frag, it's gonna be Dicey. So if BBB can't frag, it's gonna be Dicey that's gonna be able to frag too. And I think I see something very similar within TSM, by the way, with Corey and with Seven, because Corey and Baby Bay together with FaZe didn't really match together because they were both duelists. So if they were playing double duelists with like that Schmeeg that they had before with Raze and Jet together, cool, it looks great. But now that Corey gets to play full-time duelist and has some support from a player like Seven, great. But to get back onto Baby Bay and Dicey, or just FaZe in general, I think for all as well that FaZe is probably right now looking to be one of the stronger North American pistol teams that are currently outside of 100 Thieves, where Baby Bay is able to farm just so many frags just on that first pistol round, which then leads for them to be able to win that pistol round. So what happens on the second round? They're going to start farming Baby Bay on like a secondary rifle or even a Vandal, and then start picking up more kills. If they lose a round, he's going to have Bladestorm into the next round, then could turn that round over again. And if it doesn't work out, well, at least on an eco, you also have Dicey with a Headhunter. And just with his Headhunter, could turn some rounds over. So I think the amount of firepower that you have for this team to start is a great way for FaZe to show themselves on the map. But there's also another thing that you guys should realize too, is that Poach is actually not IGLing this team anymore. Ever since Poise
No.
joined this roster with Superman from Rise, Poise has been taking the 100% role of IGLing for this team. So all of the calling that has been happening so far from FaZe is done through Poise.
It's so interesting. Poach was like the OG Viper IGL type
Yep.
guy, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember like talking to We Did, and he was saying that like he learned everything he knew from or was inspired by sort of Poach's example. This is going way back now. So yeah, that's kind of a wild structure that this team's got going on. Surprised they've been able to put it together. We'll get to see more from them, obviously, in sort of close qualifiers. Baby Bay was involved in, over the course of the series, involved in 29 first kill, first death scenarios, as you'd often expect him to be, the Schmiegelord, and ended up coming, I think it was like +5 in them. So really very heavily involved early on in the round. Sort of in such a way, in the next closest person was like Dicey with 18, Corey on the other team with 17. So Baby Bay really, really trying to start off these rounds with the bang, that this fearless guy that is kind of built his brand around being. It's interesting to see if they can get away with that going forward.
I also got to say, to Preston, you probably have to recheck that game on Haven as well, because I also believe that you guys had that match in the bag on Haven against FaZe. I think after like a timeout or something that happened, there was like a push down into long C from Subroza and from Corey, where Subroza got caught off guard and then he gets picked off, and it allows like FaZe to get like some sort of, I think it was like even map point or something like that. I can't really remember. Like they're coming back into the game. But then there was another round where the Aldrone didn't actually go deep enough into like the A Cubby side on defense, which allowed FaZe to take over that. And then the round after, Rossi misses a recon dart into the H choke point, which allowed to put Baby Bay into a H choke point and a pick with an op onto Rossi at long A, which allowed that tie game to happen. So unfortunately for that, small mistakes.
Yeah, and that's part of it, right? So like we qualified, but I honestly don't think we played that well. Like we have so much to improve. We made so many dumb mistakes, so many bad plays. We lost so many bonuses. I think at one point before the 100 Thieves last match, we were 9-27 for pistol rounds. So we've won 9 of them. Out of the 9 pistol rounds that we won, we had gotten eco twice afterwards. So essentially we had only won 7 pistol rounds basically. And so yeah, and on top of that, like we're a sloppy team for sure.
Yeah.
So I think if we can fix all those mistakes, like I think we can honestly be one of the best teams in North America. I think this talent on this team, the aim, like all 5 players in this team have insane aim. Like even Subroza, right? Like so Subroza is an in-game leader. Like his stats sometimes aren't the most insane, but like on Ascent against 100 Thieves at halftime on attack, he had 15 kills.
Yep.
Like he just, like every single person on this team can go off. And I think that's definitely going to be one of our strengths going forward. And like we've talked about with Jet being nerfed, with stuff like that, we're probably one of the most prepped teams for those kind of changes because Corey's not a Jet player.
Well,
Corey plays Jet, but he's not a Jet player.
Yeah.
Like
That's
he
one.
can play every
When he
single
was that-
duelist.
He was that secondary duelist, yeah.
He
on
was
that
the Rays,
face-off
yeah.
of the
Yeah,
Rangers.
So it's
exactly.
already starting. You guys are already starting with the Rays play on a
Yes.
set, right? It's already
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
ready for
Yeah.
that.
So we do have a head start. So like and even if Chamber talking about getting nerfed, if he goes out of the meta, we just move 7 to flex. We can move Rossi to because Silva's going to be out of the meta. I'm pretty sure.
I was gonna say Sova's.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like if it was gonna be any big change, it's gonna be Silva. That's out
Yep.
of the picture.
Which I sort of assumed too early because they'd mentioned that they're planning to nerf Sova and Jet. So that was also one of the reasons why I was really excited for Rossi to play that role, because Rossi's not a Sova player. He's just an initiator flex. Like Rossi can play 3 different roles and probably like 8 agents at like a pretty good level. And so I think out of any team prepped for like a meta change, I feel like we probably wanted the best prep for like a meta change, to be honest.
Mhm. Nice to have that flexibility, or at least be
Yeah.
like more meta agnostic. Let's talk
Give
about a
yourself
team that's
preps too,
maybe
Preston.
yeah. Do you want to talk about a team that's maybe not as meta agnostic? Sentinels was not a auspicious occasion for this team. So obviously they made some changes, right? Konpeki seems like a great pickup, but for those that maybe don't know too much about him, UpMind, like what are your thoughts? How do you evaluate this pickup for Sentinels?
I mean, it wasn't a bad idea. Konpeki, he had always been one of the top free agents for like the last like 5-6 months already for a lot of teams in NA. So I mean, Sentinels, they were looking for a bit of a new face. They were looking to help out the team in some sort of fashion, at least in that back line. I don't know if exactly it had to be Zoms or who exactly it had to be, but Sentinels, they needed some sort of change. But now people are calling for even more changes, calling for even more structure for Sentinels, and it's like this is everyone's opinion at this point. This is the Omegalol Reddit opinion at this point. Just get a coach. Like Sentinels, they haven't been able to have the structure that they so desperately need to have as a top international team. And they have the power to stay at that position, to stay in a top 3 region, in a top 5 region. But again, it just seems like, especially on maps like Split, where they just didn't play before, they had an opportunity to kind of reset their entire composition and reassess the way that they actually approach it. But they had so many clear issues, and actually, well, not exactly issues with stopping power, but issues with retakes. They had only won, I think it was like 12% of retakes, while everyone else in the top 8 ended up winning 19%. And it didn't come down to a single player or dynamic, but there were glaring issues from that extent too. You had Shazam specifically on Split that, he should be playing Breach. He was playing Sky to get a lot of contact, to just get a lot of information on his own. And again, Sentinels, they have the right structure, dude. They have the right players, but they don't have the right structure. I can't say that. I just can't say that. They have the right players. Now they do, I think. But something's just not going down.
I'm going to let Juvie talk about this too.
Yeah.
Spit,
one,
Juvie, please.
He's coach Konpeki, and then 2, he also trialed for Sentinels as a coach. So now you can give me all that structure about
Give it to me.
So I didn't trial as a coach. Me and Shazam, I used to be teammates with Shazam back in 2014, back with Denial, Dap, Snaf, Fugly, that roster. So me and Shazam have history. I mean, I've changed so much since those days. Like, I'm 33 years old. I have 2 kids. I'm a completely different person. I'm sure he is too. But I think he probably doesn't like me. I mean, I'm just kidding. He probably doesn't like me. But so we have history. I didn't trial, but I did coach Konpeki, and I would agree with you guys 100%. Like, it doesn't matter really who they change player-wise. I think they need a staff. They need a coaching staff, even if it's just one person to come in and help Shazam and sort of be like a secondary to Shazam, but someone who can give him ideas, give them things, and it obviously has to be someone they respect. I mean, they were the greatest team in Valorant history, right? At least the beginning of the game, right? So they definitely need some changes, and I don't think a player change is going to magically fix their issues. Konpeki's not going to magically fix their issues, even though he's a great player. I'll tell you right now, he's insanely flexible. He can play duelist, he can play flex, he can play sentinel. He is
That's how Zoms was at the beginning.
Yeah.
This stat is fucking. Whew.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah, this is the one I was talking about where I'm a little worried about FaZe. If those guys don't go off, dude, like
that. No, you had both Baby Bay and Dicey in the top 3. The top 3 of this entire tournament. Those 2 players statistically, like you can't replicate that every tournament. There is going to be a time where one of those two players aren't going to be able to pop off, and FaZe might run into issues,
enhance.
dude. But now we get the bigger
and
screen.
Sentinel's
But
in the same
again,
spot, right?
look at tens.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go in a different direction. I actually do like what are you gonna say, Mitch?
No, I just thought it was
What,
interesting
Mitch?
that when tens had more than 275 ACS, their win rate was only 65%. So it's like, you know, doesn't make that much of a difference if he's playing well. That's the sad part, you know, for that team. That speaks to other issues. Anyway, go Vance. Go on.
No, I was gonna say that's the thing too. Like if you're looking at all of these names and stuff like that too, I think Kempeke is that addition that's gonna help to add more firepower into Sentinels first off. So if we wanted a change to happen in the first place for Sentinels, we got it and it's in the right direction. Why? Because when you watch a lot of Sentinels games, we always critique Sick of being like, where's Sick trying to play the flex agent or the support player that's going to be able to help out tens so that it could have like trap plays here and there. And we sort of saw like a flash in the pan at some point towards like their last game of the groups where their Haven looked pretty okay. Like sometimes like the flashes, there were like team flashes, but the idea was there that they're trying to play to set up tens. So now you pick up a player, sorry, like Kempeke first off that could one play that duelist flex, to play the initiator flex that's going to support tens, that's also going to be potentially the second entry fragger for the team that will help out. So who's going to have to take the step back if you're going to bring a high profile player like Kempeke? Unfortunately, it's probably going to have to be Zom. So Zom sits down, and then who's going to replace him? You still have Sick, that for me, Sick I thought was going to be probably one of the best players in North America by the end of the year. So I think that if he continues and still has that drive to play with Sentinels and still has a drive to play Valorant, then it's just natural that he's going to stay with that team. So overall, as a unit, I still think that it looks pretty good. And I think that you have to step away from this whole storyline of like Sentinels needs to coach at some point, because we've been talking about it for the last fucking 5 months. And if it's going to happen that they're going to have a coach in like a month or two, that does not mean that, like, if a coach comes in a month, they still have to qualify next week into the main stage. So take that storyline of the coach out of your fucking heads and being like, let's try to figure out how you can help Sentinels to win now. And I think Sentinels still has a very good bind in their map pool. They had some fluctuating wins on Haven and on Ascent. I think on Haven, they have to work out a little bit more their attacker side now, but their defense looks very, very good with how Kempeke is able to enable tens, not necessarily playing close to tens, but long range with the information that he gets from KO. That's another thing. So I think that Sentinels actually looks pretty good. I think their first bet that they need to fix is Ascent, because I think they're getting back into that rule where, or that storyline where it's hit or miss. When like you remember we talked about this last year, Uber, when Sentinels actually had Ascent in their map pool, Ascent and Icebox. It's like they should win Icebox. They could most likely win Haven.
They were still saying they were dog water on Ascent. They were like, we hate.
Yeah, exactly. We were saying they were dog water on Ascent, and now it still kind of is. So if they're able to fix that, because most teams will still want to play Sentinels on that map. So if they're able to leave that in there and work on that and start winning that, now you have Bind, you have Haven, and you have Ascent in your map pool at least to give you 3 out of the 7. Sorry, that's going to help you out to win these series.
They still play Split, by the way, and they're just not good on Split.
Yeah.
Like there's
Is that because of Shazam? Like, you know, they don't have like a real breach capacity on that team. I mean, Sick can play it, right? But
not exactly. Again, we just saw a lot of issues on defense just through stopping power. Not enough control back over in mid. Just it was too passive. Way too passive. You saw so much control from LG early on in rounds. They would get 4 players up in heaven before you actually get first contact. And that's just not it. With the comp that they were playing, they just didn't have enough util to be able to stop something immediately like that, or to be able to delay time for rotations. It was way too easy for LG to exploit that defensive side. And again, on Split, you need to have a good D side. And it was like 3-9 on that first half, I think.
So here we are. We are first our first open qualifier is done. There's still another one, so still opportunities for teams like Knights, teams like V1, teams like 100 Thieves to make it through. Again, 12 teams get to play through groups, so it's going to be super exciting whichever way it sort of falls out. Juvie, obviously, congrats to you guys for getting the big result.
Oh,
You
yeah.
Sort of put your feet up for a little bit. I'm sure that's
TSM's
not what you're
back.
doing though. What is coming up for you guys? Are you guys hitting
When
the
does
books?
TSM play, Juvie?
So it's actually, we don't have much of a break. Like I was so happy to qualify, and then you look at the calendar and we got to start in 10 more days.
Yep.
So like the closed qualifier starts in 10 days, and that's with the
Fuck.
new meta, with the fade changes, with Sova changes, with Jet changes.
Jeez.
So like there's not really a break. We basically get today off. We start back tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday. I think we'll take Friday, Saturday off, and then Sunday we're starting back full time, which is close to 7 or 8 hours a day total, on top of their normal streaming and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
there's really no break. And I'm so happy that we qualified, because I do not want to be in the second qualifier. It's gonna be hard, man. There's a lot of good teams left. Sentinels, Ghost is still in it. We haven't even talked about Ghost yet.
I was
But I'm
gonna
telling you right
say,
now, when we played them in the tournament, they were the best team in NA. I'm not even joking. And
Mhm.
from what I've heard, they were pooping on everyone in North America. Like they've been scrimming C9, etc., and they've been destroying everyone. So
Yep.
if they can replicate that in this VCT, I think they're probably one of the teams guaranteed to qualify. So that means you have Sentinels, you have V1, you have T1. There's so many more teams left in there that
Mhm.
there's going to be some really good teams not in this tournament for sure.
Who do you guys have actually qualifying? If we're gonna have to choose 4 teams for the open qualifiers.
I'm gonna pull up the bracket. All right, thanks, fans.
So before recent, so was the Zels saying that the mental health stuff, saying he wants to take a break after this qualifier, like that's a bad sign for V1,
Yeah.
because if he's saying that he doesn't want to play right now, they haven't practiced with Whippy at all. Like regardless, Whippy hasn't played for a month, but they also haven't practiced with Whippy. And
Anyone hasn't
Matt,
had a whole 5 in like the longest time.
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
Matt is a
Yeah.
very different player. Yeah,
Yeah.
Matt's a
Back
very
when
different
Vanity was
player.
on there might have been the last time they had a full roster. Even
Yeah.
The
then.
last time they had a full roster was before they went to an international tournament.
You got
Fuck.
100 Thieves, you got Knights still.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
so honestly, I would probably take Sentinels. I think they get in, even though they've been struggling and stuff like that. I mean, they just need to buckle down one time. That's it. I mean, they're still
Yep.
one of the best teams in NA. It's not a question. And they're just obviously, probably more than anything, it's confidence struggling right now more than anything else, honestly. And so I think I would take Sentinels. I think you have to take V1. 100 Thieves is playing so well. I would take those 3, and then the 4th spot, I would say it's pretty open between like Knights, EG, Gen G. I think Gen G has a chance. I think there's a
Yeah.
world where
They
NYFU
do.
could qualify if they just have a really good run one day. So I
Yep.
think there's at least 7 or 8 teams that qualify. I think V1, Sentinels, 100 Thieves, and I'll give
See,
it to
Juvenile's a bit
Knights.
silly right now, man. He's like, I just want everybody to qualify.
Yeah, I wish there was more spots. I'm really worried about franchising in general, just because if it's supposed to be us, NA, and Brazil and LATAM, how many NA teams are actually going to make it into that thing?
And obviously, I'm sure you're going to be pretty busy yourself, UpMind. What's coming up for you, man?
Yeah,
I don't
this
suppose you get much of a break either.
No, this weekend's gonna be fun. We get I got 2 shifts this weekend. I got the Saturday, Sunday again, and this next stage is gonna be a little bit quiet because again, Sully is not gonna be able to cast, but it'll be me and Mimi on the cast once in a while. So you guys will be able to see me on cast once in a while. But I am still thinking about potentially playing around with Counter-Strike once again. So we'll see how the next few
Nice.
months are treating me. But for the open qualifier, by the way, I kind of just have to repeat the sentiment. I think still Sentinels, Knights, 100 Thieves, those 3 teams are pretty solid on making it through. Version 1 should be that. Those are my top 4 actually. I'm pretty firm on Knights going through.
We're close.
All right.
We're close. I have Knights, 100 Thieves, Sentinels, and Ghost. I-
Ghost.
just
Oh,
yeah.
just
Shout out
something
my
that I
boy
feel like Ghost is gonna
Kaplan.
make it, man.
Yay!
All right.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, great to have
They
you
went
here.
0-2 Vans, by the way. Whoa.
Yeah. I think Vans loves
an off day.
Kaplan.
Just
He
an off
loves
day.
Kaplan.
Just an
Yeah,
off
he's a
day. Remember, guys, just
Big,
mark my
big
words.
simpy boy over here.
Ghost making it through. Just mark my words. I did
Okay.
predict Optic also winning Masters 1. Hey, we're doing pretty good so far.
That was
keep the
true.
rate
That
up.
was and that at the time we gave you shit for, to be fair. So all right, and you had the KO thing, fine, whatever. Guys, thanks so much for joining us, UpMind and Juv3nile, of course. You can follow them at their handles below. After the break, we're going to talk about the upcoming sort of franchising era for Valorant esports. We're going to be bringing in Zescht, which is going to be a great discussion, I'm sure. But for now, we're going to leave you on some words from the director of the NALCS Players Association, Philip Aram, kind of discussing what their function is There's actually a pretty extended interview. It's a great listen and might give you some insights on our next topic. So enjoy. We'll see you after the break.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. I'm Phil Aram. I'm the executive director of the North American League of Legends Players Association, or LCS Players Association. And yeah, my job is to represent and work on behalf of players who play in the LCS and in the Academy League to ensure they have representation in front of Riot and the teams in anything going on with the league that they play in. Yeah, I think representations, you nailed it, is the biggest one to us, and it's something that we put a lot of emphasis on at the PA. You know, we're an advocacy arm for our players, but our primary advocacy is to the developer and to teams as a body, right? Talking about trying to negotiate on larger policy and things that individuals, it's harder for all 100 players to sit in the room and voice their opinion. So we're trying to be a voice for all 100, right? But when you're in that room one-to-one and you're negotiating, you need an advocate who can represent you, who's an expert in what they do. When we talk with our players, we talk about, you wouldn't want your, your parents sitting there playing the game next to you because they're not an expert in the game. They may love you, they may be an expert in, raising you, but they are not an expert in playing League of Legends. Let's say, the same is to you, and you're sitting in a negotiating room and they're putting a contract in front of you that's 45 pages long and has massive legal boilerplate and legalese in it. You're not an expert in reading that, negotiating it, knowing where, to get the most out of it. So you should have someone with you who is an expert. So we've spent a lot of time in my first year here educating players on the importance of having representation. We're always encouraging a player in any situation. First question I always ask is, do you have representation, a lawyer or an agent? If not, maybe consider talking to someone and make sure you have individual support. So I think that's the best thing you can do, is making sure you have an expert on your side, because teams, they are experts. That's a big part of how they build their business, is by trying to negotiate the strongest contracts they can. So that's definitely number one. Well, I think the best resource is agents and lawyers. They're going to be the people, because we're in such an open system. There's so many different marketplaces and pieces here. We're not in a world where there's collective bargaining anywhere, so you don't have a CBA to look at or to read to review and see kind of where the rules of play are. So in our opinion, their best starting point, especially sort of having, if you're in the LCS, come talk to us. We're your association to help provide you resources. If you're in Counter-Strike or Valorant or in these games where there isn't, well, Counter-Strike also has a CSPPA, go talk to them. But if you're in Valorant, doesn't have a group like that yet, one, either make the group and help get a person in place who can help to put together resources for you, or go and talk to agents and lawyers in the space. And the easiest way to figure out who to talk to, there's no validation program for agents or lawyers in esports today. So anybody can act as an agent or be a lawyer in the space, which makes it can be a little bit tricky to figure out who's good, who's bad. The best we can say here is word of mouth. What we ask is, when you go and you reach out to agents or lawyers, starting point is to talk to your other players who you play with or who you know in the space. Ask, hey, are you represented? Who did you use for your contract? Have some conversations. Go out and do a little bit of work out of the gate here. Figure out who's represented, who represents them. Ask, do you like your representation? How did that work for you? How's it working today? Get referrals and get that information out of the gate first, to try and set up a baseline for a good person to work with, and then be able to talk one-on-one with someone who represents you, who will help you be able to navigate your best interests. I would list off a bunch of agencies here for you, but there's so many that the one I leave off will inevitably come after come after me for forgetting them off the cuff. But there are many agencies doing better work than was happening back in the day. I'll give you the two law firms to start from. They may be able to help you with the agency side. The law firm's a little bit smaller, and I apologize here to anybody who's a law firm working in esports that I don't know today. But to my awareness, at least in the league space, we really only have two law firms that do significant work directly, and that's Odin Law and Morrison Rothman, both who have pretty robust businesses representing players across games. So they can be a good starting point. Even if you want to get an agent, they may be able to help direct you to some agents as well, and can definitely help you with a contract at the very baseline. But there are many good agencies. Talk to your fellow player, ask who reps them, and navigate from there. And then ask other people. You can always @me if you want to reach out personally to try and help get contact. Philip Aram on Twitter. I'm happy to chat. Philip Aram, #2278 on Discord if you want to reach me there directly. anybody, whoever needs help, I'm happy to one-on-one chat through and help get you your options. Well, I suppose if you listen to this entire conversation, I've probably only said it 9 times. So the 10th will be here, which is get representation. Absolutely. An agent or a lawyer, spend the work to do it, spend a little bit of money out of your contract to make sure you have someone who can represent your best interests and support you. So go do that work. Yeah, don't just take the first person that someone offers you. Try and, I would say, a good rule of 3 in any situation where you're getting bids for services, whether it be helping to improve your home or getting an agent. Find 3 agencies and do a little bit of work to vet each of them. It's going to be well worth it in the long run to make sure you got the one that was the right fit for you.
If you've been enjoying Valoranting, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you get every episode hot off the presses. And there it is, obviously, Philip Aram from the NALCS Players Association talking a little bit about their function, and it's something that might become relevant in time in the Valorant scene as well. Great to have Zescht here on the show, obviously bilingual esports commentator and host for Valorant and also for Counter-Strike and a bunch of other titles. Zescht, great to have you on the show, man. Obviously, we know you've been very busy not only with sort of VCT level stuff, but also regional stuff. So great to have you on the show, man. What have you been up to lately?
Lately I've been very thankful to not play this game. I'll be honest with you. You know, when you're on and we're like 2 weeks constantly in Berlin, I'm really happy to not be there for a moment and, you know, to not play the game. I'm really, really happy to just, I don't know if you know that, but if you just don't play the game for a week, you're just like, I have new energy. I still have this energy. Where did it come from? It just felt a lot
all
like
of a sudden,
that.
All the colors seem brighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone's smiling at you all of a sudden.
Guys, I'm nearing 2 months where I haven't played Valorant yet, and it's fucking killing me. I want to get home. First off, I want to get rid of this fucking chair so I could sit somewhere fucking comfortably for more than 30 minutes. Like, that's why I can't even stream here, because it fucking hurts my back.
That looks like a nice chair. What's wrong with you?
It's not. Dude, this bar is just going into your fucking vertebrae. How is this comfortable?
I mean, you sound like what your chair at home is like, what, a mound of anime titties? Like what? Why are you so fucking spoiled? Seems
that's
totally
off camera, but on camera, it's still an
people,
ergonomic chair.
You know how many people have crappy chairs? You know what I mean? Not everyone can afford something like that, Vance. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, well, that's why it's time to start investing into your health and put the money into a chair. Which is, by the way,
how about you just ask Riot to pay you properly? How about that?
I mean, they also give me chairs, so I'm not complaining.
Actually, they do. True.
You know what? That solves it. That's fine. I mean, I can't hold anything against them for that. I am really interested in their upcoming announcements. Zescht, obviously, recently we found out some of their plans, just the tip of the iceberg for 2023. And I feel like, you know, I'm sure you probably had a feeling that there was a franchise era coming, but what I kind of want to pose to you is that sort of this tweet from Riley Yerk sort of gives us an idea of what their mission statement is, starting with no franchise fee. I don't know if that's going to be the case forever, but for now, no franchise fee, international leagues, and an in-game path to pro. 1, 2, 3. That's pretty insane. I'd love to know, like, just your reaction when you first saw this news drop.
So I think the first time I've heard that this is going to happen was like 2 or 3 months ago, but it was all very vague, right? There was a franchise happening. So what does that mean? Nobody knew. And I think every single statement piece you have in this website is like more info's coming soon, because we're still not we're still not at the point where we most definitely know. It leaves me with a lot of questions. The first thing I really ask myself is, do we just see the exact same orcs join in? Because let's be honest, if we do, that would be hella boring, wouldn't it? Just once more the same group of people, the same group of orcs. I mean, new players maybe, but come on, not the same rivalries again. That was the first thing I was hoping. And second of all, the good thing is that they've done this pyramid thing, right? And it left me asking, like, okay, you do the path to pro and the steep connection in game, more opportunities. Okay, what does that mean? What is it? Does it mean we're gonna have like coach slots in a dedicated 5v5 mode in game and in-game pauses and things like that? Is that not just gonna be a too cluttered client? It left me with a lot of questions there, because I'm like, I like it all separated from time to time. And with what we have like in Europe and EMEA with the VRC, VRL, and VCT, it feels like, yep, that's fine. It's separated. It's all looking kind of dandy, and not just one cluttered client.
Yeah, for sure. Can we... so there's one I want to look at. I want to talk about the philosophy, right? The sort of impetus for this whole decision making thing. So this is very pitch deck, right? But
Yeah.
let's try and sort of decouple these sort of ideas. So, we'll use everything we learned from the past 10 years in esports to supercharge Valorant into the next multi-generational esports. So 4 pillars, right? First of all, highest levels of competitive integrity at every level of competition. Okay, so no cipher bug, gotcha. Consistent and frequent inter-regional and global matches, right? So this one is obviously a bit of a no-brainer, but obviously we love Masters, we love champions, right? That's what really gets us going. It's the international rivalry. It's seeing these teams represent their regions and show us incredible games.
Yeah.
These next two for me are the ones that I think that they definitely need to flesh out more. The healthy and sustainable ecosystem, which empowers long-term planning, and then a clear path to pro for every Valorant player in the world. So a lot of these companies want to define like a flow chart that you can follow in order to go from being, a casual player to a pro player if you wanted to do so. I think they do an okay job of this with open sort of circuits in the past, but this is what they mean about path to pro. Every player should be able to sort of see that approach pretty directly, and it's supposed to integrate with our esports ecosystem. And a higher goal beyond Radiant, so to provide esports organizations with the new method of scouting their regions most pro. Okay, so is this reasonable? Is this already happening? Obviously, they're going to bring in-game tournaments in. So how does this change things? I mean, that's something that looked like it worked really well in Fortnite, and Clash looks okay in League, but Clash doesn't really, as far as we can tell, does it lead to path to pro? It's just sort of seems
I guess
like...
in a sense it does, right? Because if you're looking at Clash formats or just, okay, you're able to get 5 players together, friends together, and compete for the weekend. Now you have like the experience of, oh, I'm playing in a group, I'm playing in a bracket, I'm playing against other players at my level, so that I understand what it's like to play other people on my skills, and do I have what it takes to, one, win that category? So if I win iron level, bronze level, or whatnot, do I have what it takes then to go into the amateur tier 2 scene where I could maybe start looking to see if I could get scouted for VRLs, or just continue playing tier 2 tournaments in North America so I could get scouted because I know what it takes to win from that experience in the first place, and then maybe even get scouted by tier 1 teams. I think that's what entry level is.
That's the question. Does it work? Do you know if it works?
I haven't. I don't have those stats, or I don't have the storyline of like players that went from like League of Legends Clash to then become pro.
I want to suggest that the path from collegiate to pro in League of Legends is way more fleshed out than the path from sort of casual sort of ranked warlord to pro, because obviously they have like proving grounds, right? And they have like collegiate teams that play in that against like academy. It's like we see collegiate teams play academy rosters all the time. Let's be fair. They're way ahead of everyone else. They're doing this, right? Like Overwatch's path to pro is fucking dog shit. I mean, like the contenders is fucked, and Europe had no competition for the longest time in that game. Like they just fucking killed a whole region. We don't have Brazil. We don't have Europe, like LATAM. So, I just want to preface this discussion by saying that Riot are ahead of everyone else in this regard, right? But that doesn't mean we can't be critical of how stuff works.
Agreed. I still think that it could be multiple facets, right? Multiple branches. If one thing is like the Clash style, the other thing is also collegiate for at the pros, right? So I think you're showing different avenues for different types of competitors to get that flair and the taste of what it's like to maybe play at a pro level, and then see where you go from there.
What do you think, Zescht?
So that's the interesting part, because once more you can maybe take a look at that pyramid thing with the bottom part, because basically
Maslow's hierarchy of Valorant.
Yes, because basically it is a very good comparison with Europe and North America with a social and healthcare system, because North America doesn't have it, but we have it, and we do have that in the sense of we have a Valorant amateur circuit, a Valorant regional league, and a Valorant Champions Tour. And that in the bottom, in-game competitive experience, domestic leagues, those are VRLs, period. And then there's
them already, right?
Yeah, look at that. This is like a LAN final. You know this place. You know this wonderful city. You know that. But we had LAN finals. And this is, by the way, the lowest tier of competition. This is not a VRL. This is the lowest competition. This is a VRC tournament. And they're going to have another 7 LANs this year. Another 7 LAN tournaments for the amateur circuit of Germany. This is not Europe. This is purely German speaking. So they have this entire organization, right, invested into that. There's a group of people who work on this Project V thing. This is what this amateur league is called. It's like an ESL hub kind of thing where you permanently can challenge each other and you have specific tournaments. There's a lot of prize money. There's like 30, 40 grand overall for the rest of the year. So we have all of that. Yeah, every tournament has like 7.5K. And then there's also a big finals of this entire thing. And there's LAN finals in like Vienna. There's LAN finals in Switzerland. There's LAN finals in Berlin. Yeah. All of that.
The closest thing we have is fucking Fullerton LAN or whatever that's out of NSG in Philly.
Yeah, so they got that. This is one country. This is not Poland. This is not Nordic. And we have that. So I'm asking myself, okay, did you now make 1 year did you now make 1 year of Project V, all those domestic, very low amateur domestic leagues, to now have that integrated and throw it in the trash can? Or what's the plan?
I think very similarly to maybe even year one of Valorant, where because, as you mentioned here, Zescht, like one region has this, one region doesn't have this. Even when you look at the year one, Europe didn't have like elimination or like BO3 single elimination at least, right? And then North America had like a full circuit. So I think because Riot internationally are trying different things, and maybe VRCs or like that definition of what they're testing with like the more domestic leagues, right?
Yeah.
So if VRCs kind of work, then cool, let's explore it in 2023 to now look at like, okay, North America, let's look at Western leagues, Central leagues, and then Eastern leagues in the States, and then in Canada and whatnot, and then start building that up into the VRLs, which you now had the regions over it, which becomes like nationals, for example.
Do you think any of this gets replaced in Europe, or this is just the model that other regions might
That's what
follow?
I don't know. That's what makes me worried, because they have invested. There's like 10, 15 peoples behind that Project V thing. What's going to happen? Are they going to cancel it and just leave it in game? That would also be a waste of resources from their end. So it seems like, is there a middle ground? No, that would seem weird as well, because there's a lot of players playing that Project V thing. Do they now swap over? I don't understand it. I genuinely don't understand the idea of that yet. I think it's good the way it is right now, but maybe I'm just also thinking too backwards. But it's fine. It's a good product they have there.
Yeah, I mean, it would be awful to see something like that go defunct, which is like such a lively sort of regional product that is really well fleshed out. And I work with the guys at Take. They are incredibly good. Like their producers, everyone working on that product are fucking sick.
They are.
So, there's no reason not to make, a lot of use of that group of people. Okay, so they also talked about expanding game changes. Obviously, that's already been happening, right? We've seen that in NA, and then in Europe, and then, to my understanding, right, in Brazil, or sort of, in South America.
South America, yeah.
Yeah, so last year, more than 40 game changers events were out there. In 2023, they want to invest by leveling up all around the world. So, on a different note, Riot already led the pack globally, in esports in general, with their game changers initiative in a couple of reasons, and they're just continuing to expand that. So, for me, quite positive, because they are not getting complacent. Like they're not really looking at the rest of the competition. They're developing this for its own sake, right? Like, I find it hard to find fault with this. Like, this should be a pretty exciting prospect, although pretty involved. I think it sounds like what they're trying to do with game changers globally is really ambitious.
Yeah.
They want to add regional leagues for Valorant, for co-ed competition in many more regions, and now they want to do the same for game changers. So that's a lot, and then we're not even at the fucking tip of the pyramid yet, gentlemen. I find it hard to find too much fault, at least at face, with this kind of idea, right?
I think
agree.
Game Changers is the best thing. Just one thing. Game Changers is, I think, the best product the entirety of Riot has delivered with Valorant. Because we you can't compare male CS to male Valorant. But there is everybody swapped to VCT to Valorant because they realized, okay, the developer is starting a female league early on.
Yeah.
And then ESL came later with that impact thing, which is a great thing to have. But again, how many years did we have bring your own computer female LANs again and again, and nobody gave a fuck. Nobody was properly organizing it. And they were like, it's a little brother, a little sister kind of thing. We don't care. And then they take it serious, and suddenly ESL pops that thing off. So
yeah, that's right.
Biggest impact.
Hey, it was an afterthought for years. I remember watching, like, Lauren would work those events, and she'd often say that she just felt like the players, like the gear they fucking had, the monitors they had to work with, like it was like getting hand-me-downs every time that they tried to run these tournaments, and like the resources just weren't there. And it's some incredible players, right? Many who are now playing Valorant in game changes,
Yeah.
And obviously it's nice, I guess, to see ESL step up to the plate at least a little bit more and put more money. But it's too late
It is.
because there's so much interest in game changers in Valorant, and that's it. They've lost that market.
I think the only event that I think was pretty good for Counter-Strike in the women's scene or the female scene was ESWC, where
Yeah.
now you have those regional quals, and then it goes down into like these finals in Paris, where it's WLC. They're playing on tournament PCs where SK Ladies, Miss Harvey, Alice, the ones from G3X right now, Complexity are currently won so many titles in the past. So I think that was probably the only one, but that's also one event, right? It wasn't like it never was a league. It never was anything else that had like throughout the whole year, right? It was once a year, and that was not enough. And it's nice to see that game changers are doing that. And I think with the initiatives that they currently have right now, we're getting closer and closer to being able to see an international land for game changers as well, which is going to be very, very fun. So I think although it's sort of lagging behind towards VCT, I think it's still catching up quite quickly into that format that will allow for game changers to also thrive.
I think. Sorry, go ahead, please.
No, you please, Vincent. I'm distracted.
You're the guest, man.
It is. It is. Actually, we were coming in, and always the discussion is like, is it going to be so significantly worse or not? Is it going to be that much worse? Is it going to be really an uncomfortable performance? I've been casting yesterday 10-star versus Untapped, one of them being an unsigned team, still no organization backing them. It was, hands down, a top 10 Valorant game I've seen. Every single round had a little nifty addition on a tactical piece they've done. Change of pace, change of defaults, change of strats. Sure, it's not insanely well-rounded as maybe a Gambit versus Fnatic, but you cannot expect that. At the same time, damn, they're good. It's not any more of those cases where like, yeah, it's all right. I guess my Radiant game is the same. No. Everybody who thinks that, please touch grass and talk to women once in your life. It really is by far a really interesting league, and it's not just there for the sake of, oh, we need to support women. No, it is a proper competitive series you can watch, and I think that is the most important thing. It is not there to exist just for the sake of it. It is exciting to watch, and I'm very glad that it is there and very exciting to watch, because otherwise we would all belittle it, but it's dang serious, and this is what I love the most. The only thing that bothers me is the attention to it, because we only have like 2 community caster streams throughout the qualifier. With so many teams qualifying and going for that, you cannot cover them all. You will always, because who shall I cover? Okay, I want a lot of views, of course. I want to, get a bit of attention to it. G2, 10-star, Alliance. Okay, why would I cover that unsigned team?
Yeah,
is there any reason for that?
Right?
Exactly, and this is where we would need Go TVs, but that's going to take a lot of time again. That's the unfortunate part. I think there should be more community streamers allowed for some reason.
Are they limiting the amount of community streams that
There aren't.
can be had for game changers?
There aren't. There's only like, they have the VCT guys and some brought in, and well, they are officially Riot licensed co-stream / caster streams. So there's not that one guy who can join it, because there is still this no delay fuck up, which still brings me to the question: we have reliable people in VRL. Like, for example, imagine there is a proper like Rebels, for example, the Spanish organization. Imagine a Spanish caster who is like VRL certified. He has done so many. He has never fucked up. Is broadcasting that with proper delay and proper observing. Man, the Spanish guys would get so much attention for it as well. Just all those regions and so many local streams as well. But unfortunately, they don't do it, because there's still this thing. I think every stream needs to be polished to a certain extent when it comes to Riot, which I understand. But man, it is still an open qualifier, right? How often did I cast an open Go TV with just clicking through it myself, right? It is just a thing. So it's kind of sad, but I would wish we have it.
Right now with the capabilities is like, or the game changers also maybe having a lack of observers. As for example, when you're watching the VCTs in North America, which again, I don't know why we're not doing it for game changers, for example, where you have multiple games happening at once. You also have freelance observers that are doing community streams on their own channel, first off, because they get to practice their observing. And then secondly, you have streams that don't have casters on there. So community casters can now pick up the stream and start restreaming that as a watch party and cast it, or just start doing some analysis and stuff like that too, to bring some light into that competition. I don't know if that's something that Riot allows over in Europe for the game changers, but I think that's what we have, at least in North America.
I mean, take a look at our watch party situation, right? We cannot do VCT. I mean, think in NA, everybody can basically do NA watch parties or something like. A lot of people can. we can't. I can't do a VCT EMEA watch party if I'd want to.
Yeah.
Can't.
And yeah, we talked with Jonas about this as well, and there is some reason, right? I never really got a straight answer on why.
I think
it
it's
can't
the
be done.
laws. I think it's the broadcasting laws, depending what region you're in or something. Right?
But what law should it
Mm.
be? What is the legal reason for that?
I think it depends what country you're in and stuff like that too. There's like broadcasting rights or something like that. No, I feel it's something like that.
Yeah.
Could be.
Anyways,
It's it could be like a European Union thing. That was the reason given to me, but it was never fleshed out and explained. And this comes from someone from from Riot. I think it's my fault for not pressing them on it, but I think if I had pressed them, they probably wouldn't have been able to explain it to me adequately either. Because when we put Jonas on, we said, Jonas, what the fuck? Why can't you do it? It was the same. He was like, oh, there's this thing that you know. I'm like, okay, right. Well, you know, I guess we have to operate on the presumption of good faith from Riot in terms of this being sort of forced. Look, the top of this pyramid, right? Yeah, that international competition. This is one of the pillars, right? This international leagues, international competition thing we're talking about.
That is right here where, you know, this is where once we're asking myself, how will they do it with the studio thing? How will they? But do you have any idea how they do it at NA? I guess they have a studio in Los Angeles, right?
yeah,
Or something.
Yes.
but not really, to be honest, because the studio in LA is
They will.
LCS stuff. So
Right,
so
exactly.
they I don't think Riot currently has a studio or anything for specifically North American Valorant stuff. So I feel that as that gets flushed out in 2023 of which teams are going to be joining this franchise and whatnot, maybe that's going to be, hey, we're announcing our studio in X location, blah, 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 blah. How is that going to look? I don't even know what that's going to look like, if it's going to be, you know, North America and South America and LatAm all together as well. Just as Juv3nile mentioned before, like, we don't even know how many NA teams are going to be allowed to go. We don't even know how many South American teams are going to be able to go. And if you're looking at South American teams, Loud, NIP, I feel like there's a lot of these organizations currently that have established themselves in South America that has that type of like, oh, they are the orgs that we kind of want to work with because they've been around esports for a very long time, right? So that's the biggest question mark for me. I feel that I'm in the same boat as you, Zescht, as to trying to figure out who they're going to pick in the first place, because I think when you're looking at the long-term solution or the investing in the long run, as they were mentioning it, like, you don't have to pay a franchise fee, but we're going to give you stipends, for example, right? So maybe the cost that you get is going to be a little bit less than what is promised if you were to franchise and pay a fee. I don't know.
Okay, don't get ahead of yourself, because I want to talk about that in its own spot, because it's really interesting to me, because I look at a lot of these models for partnerships and I try and figure out how they work and do it across esports. First of all, the top of the pyramid, right? Let's just go there. We have like the international regions. This has been done before, right? The global tournaments, they're basically saying, hey, multiple premier level global competitions are happening each year. Top teams are going to be there. We want to get in front of a live audience, but it's a matter of making that sort of a safe reality. So it's not that exciting. I guess the top of this pyramid is. I think the bottom of the pyramid is more exciting, right? Talking about how we flesh out the parts of this stuff, and that's where the novel stuff is. But this is just a reaffirmation of trying to get these big tournaments in front of crowds, which is obviously, you know, the apex, in my opinion, of the esports experience.
Which is why I think like the third layer to the top layer is just like very, to me, the way that I read it is very similar to like LCS, LCK, LEC. And then the top of the pyramid is Worlds, right? I think it's going to be, that's how I associate it when I'm looking at the pyramid, which is why I brought up that topic.
Or champions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So the only thing that I'm asking myself, because, you know, there's one thing I think we skipped, was the third party window. And I don't know anything about League of Legends. Dang, I never touched this damn game, but is there a third party window in the LCS universe?
I don't think so, but I think
really.
what this alludes to is very similar to what they've announced already for 2022, right? Because if you're looking at 2022, Champions is going to finish in September, right? Technically,
exactly.
end of September, whatnot, which means October to December, technically there's not going to be any more VCTs. So I think Riot is going to try to bring back the format, exactly that, new tournament circuit, very similar to, I think, what they said before was similar to like the Ignition series that we saw during the summertime when we were in the beta days of Valorant. So maybe smaller cash prizes happening more often, maybe some teams going in there so that during that period of time, there's usually going to be roster changes or whatnot to get ready for 2023. So those are tournaments to actually test the waters with their new rosters.
This is all well and good, but as we've discussed before, in the past, the business arrangement between Riot and third-party operators isn't always very good for the third-party operators. They can't, like, they would have to offer more in these like RFP processes to tournament organizers to get them interested in running this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, the reason why I don't know what the situation is for Freaks. I know for Nerd Street, it only works because Nerd Street's business model just wants people on their platform.
Yeah.
Right? Their tournament platform.
It's not for Freaks. 100% not.
So I was under the impression that kind of changed now. Whereas I think what we're trying to get to is in the past when we first started with the RFP process or whatnot to get the name to be able to do a tournament platform during the Ignition series as a TO, those TOs had to fork out the licensing fee and then like pump everything, right? Riot just basically allow you to pay the name to be able to broadcast.
Not just that, they also limited the categories you could advertise in.
Yes,
I'm telling you.
So you can't have a certain share sponsor. Yeah.
This current VCT we're in, I have seen the RFP for. It's not like at no point does Riot really offer monetary support or anything like that. Like it's pretty. I don't like in Europe. Look, Riot, like in NA in Europe, they operate differently. They are different entities that compete against each other quite vigorously. So I don't know what these RFPs in Europe look like. This is just an American one, but I tell you right now, people like Esports Engine and sort of those other organizations, they're not fucking interested in running these lopsided, these asymmetrical tournament relationships. It's, you know, when they're okay if the onus is on them to make money off the event, but there are so many protected categories they can't advertise in, right? Whether it's cryptocurrency or an energy drink sponsorship they can't touch because Red Bull is associated. You know, there are a lot of extra constraints on tournament organizers that make it sometimes not make great business sense to run. I've fucking seen the document. I've spoken to tournament organizers about it. So they would have to lift some of those stipulations or offer something else to try and sweeten the pot if they want to have, you know, a lively third party look. And hey, Overwatch completely fucked that up by like making it basically pointless to run. Like I remember Overwatch in Europe was dead for a whole fucking year because there's just no point. It was just the worst thing you could ever do to a regional scene, and it's not recovered from that. It's still fucked. So you know, I don't know how they're supposed to sweeten the pot here, but this kind of leads us into the discussion of how franchising is supposed to work for Valorant, right? Because you have to incentivize the involvement of these organizations. But I find it so interesting that one of the first things we read about this, guys, is that there's no franchise fee. Now, just to put this in perspective, the most severe end of the spectrum in franchise fees is the Overwatch League, right? 20 mil, mental, fucking mental. With the promise that does come back, and my understanding is that will happen in the Overwatch League. Like these orgs are almost all are going to recoup that investment. In LCS, there is a franchise fee, but it's way less. From what I understand, it's much less. And now in Valorant, there would be no franchise fee. So this last sentence, guys, I want to talk about this. I mean, you can all read it right now. To make sure we attract the best teams in the world, we will forego any participation/franchising fees and instead provide financial stipends to the selected teams. How much that is, who knows? How regular, who knows? In return for their investment in growing the ecosystem. What the fuck does that mean? What does that last sentence mean?
And more particularly, you know, if I can understand it correct with League of Legends, you buy a slot. So why would not everyone and their mom's organization ask for that slot? I mean, sure, it's unrealistic. You have your big dogs that can play. Yeah. But at that point, I'm asking myself, can Riot just handpick the people they have worked with all the time before? Or what is the deal? What is that?
It's an application process.
Yeah.
And they literally will choose the teams. I think it's in that paragraph as well. Teams with the best track record, you know, or just they can fucking decide. So for 2023, we will select partner teams across our 3 international leagues who have a track record of building great esports experiences, developing players, and can meaningfully contribute to the long-term growth of it. What does that mean? What does that fucking mean? What? Like, outside of providing a team and keeping them fed, watered, and housed, what the fuck does that mean?
You know what that sounds like? This sounds like the white paper of an NFT, and you don't know where it goes. You don't know where this goes. Like, you have to invest into us, and we don't know what's going to happen next. It really feels a bit like that, because what's the payout? What are we benefiting from it? I don't get it. I still don't get it, because, you know, if you get the slot and you can sell it for a bit of price, hey, awesome, you made profit. But now you're like, is that really a benefit? How do I get in there? I don't get it entirely, but will they reveal the... Because if there will be transparency in the application process, I'm like, fine. That seems reasonable, and a lot of people will be mad if this and that happens. But how veiled will that application process be? This is so damn important.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, you know, I would suggest that this information will become more freely available to teams that are actually involved in this application process. But we need to find out. I really want to understand this, because you cannot... The first tweet we showed was, look, it wasn't bragging, but it was, you know, it was like, hey, we're going to birth a new esport, right? And the first thing they say is no franchise fees. So I'm like, how the fuck are you going to make this work? Is this just, again, the continuation of, like, you know, Valorant esports, you know, not necessarily being a vehicle for profit, but just driving involvement in the game, which drives MTX, which ultimately drives profit? Because I think we're starting to come around to this idea that maybe LCS and their esports operations aren't actually loss leaders, and they make money in a more circuitous fashion. That's to say that, okay, so maybe, yeah, their esports books are in the red, but their MTX, their in-game revenue books are well in the black, and they can trace how their esports operations enhance their in-game takings. You know, they have the data. They won't fucking publish it. A lot of people are accusing them of not being profitable in the LCS and not being transparent about it. They're just not. Like, we cannot get them to they're a fucking private company, for Christ's sake. But I have to get this info. You know what I mean? And, you know, that's why I was asking, like, I want a discussion about this. Like, I want to see, maybe we talk to Hastra about this at some point. He might be able to, because I know he offered to be part of a discussion regarding this. But Vans, what do you think, bro? Now that you're back, we fucking got you back in voice. What do you?
Yeah,
what
I
do you
just
think?
lost the whole conversation you guys had. So what do I think about it?
Well, what do you think about no franchise fee? How the fuck does this work? You've been around for like 42 years in esports.
You know what? At
You that
least in
young?
my 42 years, the only thing that I feel that I'm the most inexperienced with is actually with the franchise model, right? Because we have it for Overwatch League, we had it for LEC.
Just say you're the least
for League of
experienced with
Legends.
making money. It's okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've been casting CS forever, which is the reason why, like, we never got into like this franchising until maybe like 2-3 years ago with Flashpoint and ESL, everything that happened. But I wasn't casting CS anymore back then. But I think just firsthand looking at it with the no franchising fee is, how do you build like this long-term thing with the org? So is it going to have to be like the investment that you want to do with we had like a taste of what it could be with like the champion skins, for example, right? So the champions bundle that came out, the amount of money that was bought into that was split into the prize pool or split evenly, into every single organization that played into champions. That could be one thing. We also hinted to potentially, are we going to see like agent skins or like team skins for agents or cosmetics for that, where maybe that involvement comes in. But why are you giving so much from Riot's side? If we're going in that direction, what are you expecting right now from the organizations if they want to sign up to this? Because everybody hands down wants to be a part of this if this is going to be the case, right? But what is expected from these orgs? That's what I don't know. That is going to be the biggest thing. And then on top of that is the orgs that are being part of this. So if we're looking at these this franchise season, right? North America teams, South America. Let's just look at NA. USA teams, Canada teams, LATAM teams, and South American teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
If these teams are going to be part of this circuit for that year, if there's no franchise fee, is there going to be relegations? If there's going to be relegations, what happens if they drop down? is now who's going to be selected to be part of these part of the league. So those people that are left out. So if XSET, for example, is not
You
going to be
can
part of
bring
this
the
franchise,
sponsors, the money,
exactly,
the
that's one thing.
eyeballs.
But then if XSET is a good team, but they're not able to bring the sponsors, is there a path that allows them to?
Yeah.
Like how does that promotion work? I don't know.
It is very interesting because you say you're talking about a potential promotion, and it says, like, as mentioned, that the last line is and will be, rewarded for their investment. So if you get relegated, you've invested obviously something into it, but you're still too bad for the league. How will you be compensated for the investment you've made? If that is obviously
I feel like
the case,
you can't
right?
you can't get relegated right in a franchise structure.
That is impossible. It seems impossible.
Yeah.
You
Because I know,
don't
like,
see that in Overwatch League nor in League of Legends. So yes, of
no,
course,
yeah.
right? So I don't know. So that
because then
what's
you just
gonna
wouldn't,
happen
you
to
just
those
wouldn't,
orgs that go like
you
that?
wouldn't invest. I think if
No.
there was any chance, like, it's just awful ROI. We've got more to flesh out here. So this is probably a topic I feel like we'll have to circle back to a couple of times when we get more info. If anyone out there's got an RFP, wants to send it my way, I'd love to give it a fucking peruse. Do I have to impersonate Hastro to get one? Like, fuck me. Anyway, so we'll try and talk about that more in the future. It's very interesting and potentially very exciting. So, like, while we're being critical and going, hey, what's going on with this? There's not a lot of info at this stage.
Yeah.
It's early days yet. We've got a whole 2022 to get through before that happens. I still think that, look, a ton of this pyramid, guys, is A1. It's really good, and Riot are continuing to position themselves as leaders in this field. So
At least it's not a pyramid scheme. That's what I could
is it
probably
not,
deduct
though?
out of this.
Is it not?
It's
It's
only
a
the last
pyramid
line.
image only.
I'm just saying. Also, very quickly, here's go. So Boostio Mum asked a question in the chat. Do you think that emote only mode on the mainstream is bad or bad for
Yes.
the stream? Yes. Why?
It's just I find that it's so boring that there's no
Yeah.
interactions that could come out from the people that are watching the mainstream, which is I think another reason why people are going into watch parties too. I don't necessarily think that watch parties are really the evil of all things now. Now that I think about it in
Sure.
hindsight,
Glad
when
we
I
got
went to watch
there.
parties in the first place, right? But I feel that being able to have interactions within the main Valorant channel would be something that would be great.
Is there a reason for this? Because, let us think about the present geopolitical situation. Is this just heavy-handed moderation from Riot? Because I think my problem was, guys, is that with emote mode only mode in conjunction with no clips, that felt to me like they were really stripping a lot of the experience away from being on the mainstream and driving people to the co-streams, right? Taking eyes off the mainstream, which is kind of what the broadcast team, you don't fucking want that. You don't want to, I think they've reinstated the clips, or at least I think follower only sort of clips, which is fair enough, I guess. Is there like a more charitable reason for them to use emote only mode?
I think you're heading towards the direction for me to say maybe if they want to market it to potential sponsors or whatnot, and it's like, here's the stream, here's what it looks like, here's what overall this category brings in terms of viewership, but here's our mainstream, and if you look at it, then it's respectable chat because there's no racism or any slurs or anything that's going on in there either. So I guess in a sense you could package it that way.
Let's be real.
Vincent?
Twitch chat for VCT is emote only anyway, but it is basically copy pasta only.
It's copy pasta.
You ever see? Do you see ever an original, well thought through message on Twitch where you thought, this enlightened me, this made my day? No, not once, not once in my freaking life. So it really is basically just, if there would be a world where there would be copy pasta only, I think everyone would be fine. Everyone would be happy.
I don't know, man. Sometimes you just see a giant
Hydra dick
phallus coming through, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna have to delete
my
that
favorite
one.
was the fucking Hydra dick. It was just like a fucking bunch of dicks. I was like, what the hell?
Exactly. I think you're gonna have to moderate that with emote only in that case.
I mean,
you
you
know,
got mods, you know what I mean? Obviously the chat moves really fast, but hey, guys, let's be reasonable. I mean, 80% of the viewership for VCT is off the mainstream. Like, how fucking hard would it be for a team of mods to moderate the mainstream? Like, really?
True. It's I'm raising myself this. I mean, we had emote mode only a very long due to the geopolitical situation you've mentioned, and I understood that. Made absolute sense to me. But from that point on, man, I want to write my original copy pasta chat. I want to reply to people. I want to say hi. Just basic. You couldn't even say hi to someone anymore if that would be the case, and that really takes the game off of me. So I'm very thankful that we step into the normal conversation anymore.
Yeah. And to be honest, as a fan that also gets easily distracted by chat, now that it's emote only, I
read
can
it.
actually pay attention to the game and like watch the VOD or watch the live game so I can study the
Mate,
game.
I
And not
fucking
look back at
dude,
the chat.
I turn that channel. What are you gonna learn from chat? That you couldn't fucking learn from
Take
fucking
it off.
eyeballing the game yourself. Christ on it. Yeah, Christ
Never
on the
read
fucking
chat.
bike. Oh yeah, yeah. All right.
Not
we're
while
gonna keep Zescht
casting. I'm
around
not going to do
here.
that while casting.
gonna-
I'm just saying like while I'm watching the
Okay.
game. If I'm
yeah,
watching,
yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, man. I'd fucking put you in a stranglehold.
No. I tell other casters don't turn on open
That's
chat.
fine.
'Cause
You know what? I'm getting old enough. I could just let it go. You know what I mean? I can let it go. We'll be back after the break. We're going to talk a little bit about FaZe. We're going to keep Zescht around here. We're going to keep the fun rolling. We're going to leave you with a bit of a teaser for next week's 100th episode of Valoranting. We couldn't sneak Vancilli out of the country, but me and Anders will be live in studio in AZ. And yeah, we'll give you a taste of what to expect. We'll see you on the other side. We're going to talk FaZe on the other side of the break.
Nice.
Got about 50 seconds to intro video.
Mitchman, turn on your camera.
30 seconds.
But just a little bit of content to remove wide joints. If you know humanity.
Valoranting was born out of that initial excitement and interest for the game and where the esport of Valorant could end up going.
Where he's still going to be in range of all of his utility over here to watch Garage.
It doesn't look like that texture is see-through. It just looks like it's a gap.
All right, you're clear. 5 minutes.
All of the various things you see on the show, making sure the ticker works, making sure the sources come up, all of that is flowing through his hands and he's molding it into what the final product is and what the audience actually sees on Twitch.
Oh my god.
Give me the happy gas. Oh, this team is killing me.
All of that kind of starts from a run of show that I create, and then we have a meeting with all the hosts to break down how the show is going to go. We use a program called vMix, which lets us grab the video and audio from each of our hosts and bring it all together for the show. After the show, our graphic designer Ness builds a thumbnail for the episode, and then our media team prepares the VOD for YouTube the next day. There's a fair amount of work that just goes into making sure this show happens every week. 100 episodes is a milestone that I hope everyone who's been involved in Valoranting takes pride in, because I think we've done something here that's very unique.
$15. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go.
Yeah, kind of cool to sort of see the evolution of the show over 100 episodes. That's a fair while in esports, right? Things are very transient in this space. I remember I first came on as a guest, like as in like someone who was supposed to have expertise. Back when Moses was hosting the show, so I guess it wasn't that hard in that case. Love you, Moses. And then I stabbed him back and took his spot as the host. Yeah, I mean the Veli era that went back when Mr. X was on this fucking show. God, I mean, yeah, geez, we've been some weird ways for sure. But yeah, it's been a pleasure. We'll talk about that next week. But now let's get into the here and now. Let's talk Fade and the patch notes 4.08. First of all, so we'll talk about Fade first, yeah? First of all, she's not in VCT to group stages. So we have both open qualifiers still.
It's like 10 days.
Yeah, thereabouts, right? She'll be here pretty soon. First of all, Vans, you haven't been able to play. Obviously, Vincent, you have not played, whether by choice or otherwise. But what are our impressions now as we've started to see a little bit more from Faye? Just how potent are we expecting her to be?
I think she's definitely the type of initiator that allows like some solo plays to happen too. So for me, it's kind of like looking at Neon being like an initiator duelist. I almost feel that Fade would be like the duelist initiator at some point. That her abilities will allow her to get in with the team to start fragging out as well. And I think her kit is quite strong. Quite strong.
It is staying strong. And you know what? I think you only can look at her, and I'm not taking that away in advance. It's just the only comment I'm going to make. You only
And
can
want
look
her
at
to
her.
step on you.
Sorry? What did you say? What did you just say?
He said you want her to step on you. Fitz.
Sorry.
Sorry?
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
But I was just. What did I want to say? I want to say you have. Okay. You want to say that you have to take a look at it in the conversation with Sova. I'm not going to take away of what Sova has, but you can only evaluate how good she is, considering what has happened to Sova. So that's the only comment I'm making towards it. I'm not going to take ahead. Her kid is interesting. The first time I took a look at her, she looked dang boring. Man, she looked really freaking boring. But with what happened here, right? You have to ask yourself how valuable is this guy still, and how much do you now need that agent?
Right. So you're saying that we should evaluate Fade through the frame of Sova here
Yes.
getting nerfed. So health reduction, duration reduction on the Aldrone. The dart reveal only has 2 pings now. There's more of a delay before that first ping sort of comes out. So then let's quickly shift to Sova then. Like, how bad is Sova now?
That's I think the 2 ping. I know that some people are reacting about that, where it's where 2 pings maybe it's a little bit too much of a nerf, but I think it's definitely the duration reduced. The pathing that you're gonna have for a Sova is gonna be, you're gonna be able to get way less information. So if you're looking at droning from long B, right? So you're playing bind. You're at the fountain. You're at the corner of the fountain, and you're droning up long B to try to get into the B side of bind. It doesn't get to the point where you're like close to elbow anymore. You're only able to reach like the entrance, where now if you want to drone from a safer area, you actually have to push up into long B even more. So there's, I feel that that's like a huge nerf in terms of how much information that you're going to be able to get out of Sova. I think the shock darts, are still going to be able to do some pretty decent work. But I also like the fact that shock darts can now really be jumped in body block to not have shock darts kill, for example, a lockdown. So I think that is a good nerf that's going to allow potentially more Sentinel play, unless you're going to see more breach coming in. So I think in a sense that, yes, Sova gets hit a lot, but Sova was also very overpowered.
Yeah, I see your point, but I think we have, maybe I'm crazy, right? And maybe I'm full on crack or something, but I believe what happened here is that it was a full on multiple change, because the drone being worse, for me, also includes that his ult has also decreased in, efficiency, due to the fact that you have less of an idea where an enemy is. I mean, most of the time, pro players can run around the ult anyway. But now with 2 pings, it got even worse. As you've mentioned as well, until the range decreased, so another disadvantage. It just got worse and worse, that I believe that the real crucial stuff about this agent became significantly less valuable. You're right, he was somewhat broken, but I do believe at this point in time, the advantage of Fade is, because the biggest thing for me from Fade is that her abilities stack, right? I don't really, I'll be honest with you, I don't even know how her damn abilities are called at this point. But the damn eye that is flying around, where it sees you for 12 seconds, and this prowler follows you around.
This little fucking kindred spirit.
Yeah, exactly. this ugly little thing. It is damn impressive how this can be used, because what I'm always thinking about this agent is, or about Sova, for example, a very valuable use in a defense scenario is when players are executing out of a main position. Think about A main, B main, ascent. Some Sovas, pop up their dart, and popping up the dart means that you obviously have this little distraction. Oh, we have to destroy the dart because otherwise they know where we are. Now with this eye, if it does not get destroyed in time, not only will you be seen, but there's always a trace behind you. And this is making it so more difficult as well, in my eyes, with this agent, that it just becomes annoying. And then there's a prowler added to it as well. And then you're suddenly, tied up on the ground for some reason. I think she really has a good possibility to be played as a big team agent nowadays. And I remember talking to a few European pros that there are just various possibilities to play her, and not that straightforward way of being a bit more aggressive, for example, or just throwing in a utility with lineups. There must be multiple ways. They didn't tell me how, unfortunately, yet.
Right.
But this is making it exciting. I believe she has a place, at least for the moment.
I mean, Prowler follows trails as well. So if you can use your W or whatever your second ability to put a trail on them, the Prowler just fucking beelines after them. Like, they just cannot. And they get what? They get nearsighted and deafened?
It's almost like It's almost like the we talked about it last week, but the Twin Wolf or the Twin Peaks or whatever it's
Yeah.
called in
from Spike Rush.
Spike Rush,
Mm.
very similar to that one too. But if I'm not mistaken, her eye cannot be shot, right? When she throws it, how does that work exactly?
When it pops up, when it goes in the right direction, just the moment it's there, you can't shoot it in time. So it's destructible.
But if it drops down, yeah.
Exactly. What is not destructible is the C's thing. So that is
Okay.
destructible at the. It's like a Reyna eye a little bit. You can shoot it.
Yeah,
in time.
yeah.
The C's cannot be destructible. So that thing right here, you can't destroy it. You're in, you're in.
Mhm.
No chance. Whatever you do, only I've tried it out. Only Yoru, was capable. So only if you like
Because he
take the
TPs
Yoru
away.
ult, he
Yeah.
TPs away, or his ult. That those are options. But
Oh, I
also the
hate
big
that.
problem is you cannot outrun the Prowler. You can't outrun the Prowler. Whatever you do, you will never outrun the thing. You can be Neon and you can be Usain Bolt. It just does not work. You will never be fast enough for the thing. And that's even more critical. So when this eye hits, when this haunt thing hits, you really have a problem when the Prowlers come in next. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really worried about it. Next thing, the ult. It's also more efficient than the Sova ult because it's such a wide thing. It's wider than Breach,
It's like
and you're suddenly.
it's like a breach shot, but even bigger, right?
It is.
It looks so
This-
fucking cool though. It looks so cool.
Does it ping them like a shock? No, it doesn't ping them like recon, right? But it will put a trail on them.
It will put a trail, and you're also suddenly you don't hear a thing anymore. It's a bit like an astro wall on your ears.
Oh, my
You're
God.
suddenly down a lot in HP.
Decase them?
They're decayed
Everything,
on
like
the
legit
spear,
everything.
yeah.
It is remarkably bad. Like you have to be really aware of your scenarios and surroundings to make anything work when that
It
ult
moves so
pops.
fast.
It does.
Mhm.
Oh
And
man.
it's remarkable. The thing is, and I think I could be wrong, but I also think it does not deal damage to teammates. I think none of her
Yeah,
abilities
sure.
actually deals damage to teammates. So
Mhm.
that's even more remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's definitely going to be viable in pro play and she's probably going to probably be used. Sorry, in 10 days once we get into the closed groups, especially with the Sova changes. Because I think even when you're looking at the current meta and you're looking at, for example, even some teams, even if some coaches are tilting that there's no more Sova on Haven sometimes because you're using a Sky and a KO, and you're not using a Sova on Bind anymore because you're using a Breach and a Sky, you're already seeing like a drop in Sova picks. I think
Mhm.
one of the most useful maps, two of the most useful maps, three maybe now, Ascent, Breeze, and what was the fucking third one that I was thinking about? Ascent, Breeze, and Icebox, right? Probably those three
Mhm.
maps where a Sova is going to be very useful. When the Aldron's going to go down, I feel that now Fake replace that too. Fake replace the Sova into those maps.
Yeah.
The only
Yeah,
thing is that the eye has a range, right? It cannot be thrown unlimited. That's the
Yes.
only thing. But if I'm thinking about it, this can be really great because let's think for the moment that you're trying to throw something over a wall, over a roof, right? In the back in the day with Sova, you had to make an elaborate lineup so it lands, and then it probably takes a lot of time because it travels slower. But with that thing, you have an exact idea how far it will go if I throw it with roughly this angle, and boom, it works.
Yeah.
Or is it
Yeah.
the same trajectory as like a Viper Molly or
no.
Killjoy Molly?
No, nothing like that. The Phoenix Molly. It works like the Phoenix Molly where it suddenly drops down. Exactly.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So obviously, and I think we showed a tweet there briefly about Yassine's thoughts, sort of about Faye. We can bring that one up again if you guys want to see it. She's broken. The oldest questionable, but without the wolf, the pursuer, I guess, it's useless, right? So Yassine definitely feels like you need to have the prowler to follow up those trails.
Yeah, that's if you're solo queuing and you're just trying to fucking own it as Fade, right? And
Sure.
I feel that if that ult comes in and you're gonna start throwing some sky flashes and some scale flashes, it's gonna look pretty damn good and even more suppressive into the sites where now the guy's gonna get nearsighted. There's also gonna be those trails that your teammates are able to follow where that opponent's headed. And now throwing flashes in that corner to predict that where that player is going to be too. There's going to be a lot of heavy shit you could do for that as well. And I think
All right.
I think the agent also allows a lot of trap plays.
So let's move on because there's obviously some major changes to agents on this 4.08 patch, right? Let's start with Jet. I think that this is definitely one of the more interesting changes, right? People were saying, oh, this is brutal. So upon pressing E, she consumes the charge and she has a 12-second window where she can sort of do it. She can get Tailwind back with 2 kills. Was that Was that normally the case?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So yeah, not Jet player here. So,
All good.
right. So, what do you think about that? How does this change how she uses Tailwind?
Yeah, I think it's a nice in between, right? Of people who were complaining that Jet's kit was it was too easy for her to escape when she's actually going to be landing or / missing her shot. Now activating a 12-second window puts you in a position as a Jet player to understand when your opponents are going to come towards you or use that window of opportunity to be a little bit more aggressive. And then the other thing that's been added, though, is that players didn't realize until the patch came out, though, that once you activate that, even if you're still within that 12-second window, a kill is already going to recharge into your tailwind anyways. So there's if in a 12-second window you don't see anybody, then you know that there's information that you could tell your teammates, like, there's nothing happening here. That your opponent's going to be somewhere else, and you yourself could even start pushing more forward or rotating in a different safer spot and play a different angled spot as a Jet op. But if not, a kill brings it back up, and you get 2 kills while you have while you have the 12-second window. You can still dash again. So
you can build towards the next dash within the 12-second window before using your first one. So you can dash
Exactly.
basically.
Yeah. It's nasty. It's really nasty. I think it's not that bad. I think it is really not that. You know, surely the millisecond decision things are really crucial. But for example, on attack, in most executes, you know when you dash, right? That's for certain. You know when you dash on backside or elevate yourself up in spots. On defense, I could consider it a bit more problematic because when you imagine that you have to dash away from after your operator shot, it becomes a problem. But I personally feel that the delay is not that big of a deal. It's like 500 milliseconds or something. I don't know it accurately. There's surely someone who knows the I'm absolutely stupid. It says 0.75, whatever. But it does not feel that. It just doesn't feel like that big of a deal. Maybe I'm also just a diamond pleb, but it does not feel like that much of an impact.
Yeah, but like I said, if you're a Jet player, you're a player that understands a little bit the layout of the round, where you know at like, let's say the round starts, you're 140 seconds into the round, you know technically somebody's going to peak at 137. So I'm going to pop that off at 138 or 139, and then I have a 12-second window to work into that pick. So there's still a great opportunity for me to still get a pick and dash away.
It means that
that.
but it means that if the timing doesn't come as you expect it to, and you're posted up on this angle, you might have to get the fuck out without even taking a shot. Otherwise, you won't have an escape mechanic.
Which is why I say, like, within that 12-second window, once you time down to a 0, almost at 0-0, you could back off a bit, still play that same angle, but play a little bit more passively or a tighter angle, so you can still get escapability.
Yeah. But it means that you can't permanently hold risky angles and get out for free. Is the point, right?
Which is why also it's a nice in between, because as Zescht was mentioning before, on the attacker side, you could still charge it up and get ready for a sight hit for you to dash in, create space, and get information while you're dashing backwards or whatnot to clear corners. So I think it's a really good change for Jet to add a little bit more. I don't think it's going to take that much more skill, to be honest, at that pro level to get used to how Jet's going to get played now. And I think she's still going to be a very viable duelist for the future meta.
Yeah, it feels a lot, first of all, like that, and second of all, you know, it's not like she can't. I think people in the beginning were like, she can't dash. It felt like people were acting like she can't dash anymore. But it reminds me a lot. I mean, you played a lot of CS, Vincent. I don't know if you did either. But it reminded me a lot of when the op scope movement has changed. Do you remember that when that has happened? It everybody was like, the op's useless. Oh my god, I can't white swing with an op upper. It's still one of the most impactful weapons in the game. You just adapted your style. It's still used quite well. No big change at all. And I think it's going to be the same thing again, where everybody's screaming initially. Yeah, exactly. I remember the Kenny S clip vividly on Inferno, where there was this clip about it. And then what changed really? Well, a bit, of course, but the game still works the same, and the op also still works quite fine. Nobody's not buying it anymore, so I think that is just out of proportion at some extent for some people.
Yeah, absolutely. What about these changes to Neon?
Oh no!
Like, did she need
this?
No,
nobody needed that.
Why the fuck did she? So she gets full battery after killing an enemy.
You know what I don't understand? Why is the wall damage removed from the fast lane? Does everybody expect everybody to be so damn stupid? I don't get it. Like, do you have to be really like, guys, there's a wall? It is, by the way, made out of flames that are blue. And you are not allowed to walk into
Blue
it.
is a very hot kind of flame, by
It
the
is.
way.
Yes, it is.
It's a fucking welding torch.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I don't
It does
understand
get hot.
why. I don't understand why they've done that.
I think
Okay.
one it's I think you're also removing like team damage on that as well, right? When you're removing
exactly, but
the
come
damage, so
on.
both attack and defense. So or sorry, both for you and your
Right.
opponents. I think that's also like an opportunity for people to maybe counter within the walls, to like flash inside the lanes and start fighting back. Because if I'm looking back at Neon's, for example, Victor's Neon with Optic hitting towards Fracture on B site, every time a wall comes up, I don't see anybody fighting in there. He has like free reign to run up that lane, get flashed on the left side by a KO, slide out, and then get a couple of kills. I think this is probably a nice little small change so that you have a little bit more capability to be able to counteract against a fast hit coming in from utility dumpage of a Neon in your opponent's comp.
I think you just really got, who asked for this?
Yeah.
Did anyone ever say we need this? Did anyone ever say we definitely need that the charges change to 100%? Yeah, maybe that's kind of fair. Make it to 50, make it 40. But do I really, did I need to slide sideways?
Yeah, but like the restrictions as well. So you can't slide during the equip delay. Doesn't that mean that you can't sort of slide around a corner and have your gun up quickly, right? It's like the same. It's a similar kind of nerf that we had to initiators with their flash timings, right? This to me is the most interesting one, I guess. Yeah.
So if I understand correctly too, so like before you had to basically be sort of sprinting to be able to slide to have some sort of velocity, right?
Right.
So now as soon as you tap one of your keys, whether it's strafing or forward, you could start dashing right away, which then means if you're going to be pulling out a knife or in between, once you're going to start sliding, you still have to, like, you can't start sliding right away while you're changing your weapon.
You have
which
to pull out the
means-
gun and then slide.
Exactly.
Right.
So
Right.
it's a nice little compromise in that as well.
Okay.
Still, the
But
worst
you
is,
go to max speed straight away as opposed to building up to it.
yeah, but you know, the
Right,
worst is
for the
the energy
dash.
drain. I don't understand that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why do you need the energy? Again, it really, you know, sometimes you have posts on Valorant Competitive, the best Reddit out there, actually, to be
Yeah,
very honest.
Amazing Reddit. Yeah.
It really, really, people who are normal and actually enjoy the game.
Well,
Yeah. I'm
yeah,
on there
and-
24/7.
It's actually a good one. But either way, nobody, I could be wrong, but I've never seen a post where somebody was like, Neon's energy doesn't drain fast enough. I've never seen that. I've never
It's
seen
got to
that.
be to compensate for the fact that now they give her high energy regen on kill, right?
They probably want to reward it. Just like you get a kill or you get 2 kills and you suddenly have pain shells.
I want to force her to be proactive and involved in fights as opposed to just
I
be a
think,
rotating
yeah.
monster.
I think now that you're starting to also see, for example, fake footsteps on the dash. Whenever at the beginning of the round, you're gonna try to do some conditioning. Your Neon's gonna start, high gearing around, let's say, ramen on split. You're gonna try to make them think that you're running up the B main. But now that it drains a lot faster, and you're also utilizing her sprint to do jiggle peaks like Victor does, then you're starting to realize that there's a lot of energy available for you to be able to do all of this right now. And especially when it comes down to situations where you're on a 1 versus 2, 1 versus 1 is Neon. Fuck it. I could now dash and run across the other side of the fucking map before my opponent catches up to me, and I could still plant the spike before my opponent gets to a position where he or she has to fight against me, right? Or they have to fight against me. So I think that also allows that to drain faster, so that you don't have unlimited sprint going across the map unless you're catching somebody while you're sprinting, kill that person, and then you're back at 100, right? So I think, again, another nice little compromise in between.
They just want to change it. It feels like they want to get it in line with the I have to get a kill for recharge. I understand that, but I also think it's cool. It's a little different from time to time. Maybe it's just me wanting to have different things with duelists, but it is one of those things where I believe it wasn't really needed to be there, but at the same time, maybe blowing it out of proportion and it's actually fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just seems not necessary.
It's definitely give and take with her kit for sure.
Yeah.
We talked about Sova already. Obviously lamenting his situation. So we can cross to the last thing was point out. It's like a minor nerf to 5 stacking. This was sort of mentioned in the developer comms. I don't know how huge this is. We can show you the graphic of it, and you can sort of decide for yourself. But basically, it's a reduced gain/loss penalty for different 5-stack configurations. So it's like if you're between Iron and Diamond 2 in a 5-stack, it's basically
Normal.
the same. But
Yeah.
as when people get out of that Diamond 3 to Immortal 3, it can start to become pretty like a 75% reduction for having a Radiant player in that 5-stack.
Mhm.
Fair enough, right? I feel like and they want to
If-
try and reduce the matchmaking time, but they're doing to dissuade Radiants to play with like people in lower ranks.
Boosting.
So.
You know.
Yeah.
But you still boost. I think it is one of the worst changes. Because imagine, right? You have a lobby. Let's imagine 4 irons, like legit freaking irons. Like,
Mhm.
man, your grandma is touching that game. And
God, don't
wha-
fucking insult Uber like that, man.
I am low
Aren't you
gold. Thank you.
Listen, okay, that's fine. Imagine that. So 4 irons and 1 diamond free. Diamond frees, are okay. They're not especially decent, but in comparison to irons, those guys are miles away. So if
Yeah.
you have that lobby played out, 4 people on the other team will suffer, and 1 diamond-ish kind of player will be there. It is still bad, and you
Yeah.
get 25% reduction. 25%. I think it would have been fine. I think it would have been really fine if you would have 5-stack Q, but there would be, for example, only you can do it in the range of +/6 or +/8 rank, +/6 ranks. So an iron player can play with, I think after bronze there is silver. So a full-on iron 1 can play with a silver 3. I think that would be fair. I think that would be fully fair. But
Sure.
to do it like that right here with only 25%, that's not a lot. 25% reduction is not a lot. You can be carried a lot. There are German streamers out there who get carried by pro players or semi-pro players to get into Immortal whilst they've been
Yeah.
gold people before. And you know what? It's absolutely fine. Nobody's going to complain. It's only 25%.
Yeah,
I
only
think
25%.
it is making it worse. It is making it significantly worse. And your average player, who your actual diamond player, who now is to play with more boosted diamond player, is going to hate it as well. I think it's overall a very negative thing.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair
Yeah,
enough.
you're
Maybe we
right.
want to see
can see that.
more dissuasion for people to sort of
Just
group
give
up
us
in this sort of
Clash.
way.
Just
Yeah.
just put that into the
Right.
Clash mode.
Right. I mean that's a whole other story because that also has limitations as well
Mhm.
on your rank. I think. Let's move on. Obviously Zescht has been hard at work covering game changers in Europe, so great opportunity to sort of talk with him about this. I think Mitch has just been doing some of that as well. I don't know if we'll have time to get him in here, but let's talk about.
Thanks
Let's
for
pick
the
up.
raid, by the way, Mitch, man.
Yeah, shout out Mitchman
Sure.
for the raid. I think he's eating. That's why we didn't bring
When
him on.
is he
I'm
not
like,
eating?
When the fuck has that ever stopped the guy? I don't know. He does that on the show. But let's talk about the bracket here for Game Changers EMEA right now. And I would say, Zescht, that there's not a ton of surprises in terms of sort of the teams that sort of made it through, right, or sort of got into this sort of upper bracket. But what I find interesting is that G2 goes and didn't get the first seed, from what I understand. It's hard to read from this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There
they
was
only got
something.
5 wins. They lost
There
one,
was
right?
there was something. Let me think real quick. They had Guild X, and Guild X been looking very good. What map was it? Was it Haven? Was it Fracture? It was Haven. It was something. It was. I think they've lost in overtime against Guild X, who've been doing a roster change recently.
Yeah.
Which looked very promising to me, right? Because they got rid of Kim and signed Anya, who played for G2 Goes in previous.
I was gonna
Right,
say,
yeah.
wasn't that an old G2
Yeah,
Goes
exactly.
player? Yeah.
Exactly. And you see it right here, how close that was. So fair play. I mean, that happens. I think that is okay. What I find kind of interesting though is to see new orgs, right? New faces. On the org side of things, and that would be obviously Rebels, which is the organization of a Spanish goalkeeper who I forgot his name.
Okay.
Legit, like this is like a big name goalkeeper. I don't know. He plays, I think, Premier League or something. Into the Breach as well is like an organization that comes in. There's more orgs coming in. The worst part about it is every time Game Changers end, it feels like 50% of the organizations drop their teams. Just like
David
yeah,
De
we're
Gea?
done.
Just
Ugh.
googling it right now.
Oh, David De Gea, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I don't watch football, so I have no idea who it was. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't watch soccer
exactly.
either.
Yeah.
Football. All right.
Come on.
You're not
how
even
many...
American. You can't do that. This guy, yeah, he was like yeah, he played for fucking Man United. So
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
all right. Zescht, we're bringing it back up for you while Vance is trying to sidetrack us and derail us. We brought
Oh
this
yeah,
fucker
sure.
in.
He can talk about the
Oh,
imperial
he's
system. a
finally
little
What's
bit.
up,
made it!
dudes?
NA number one! NA number one!
Oh,
NA
there
number
we
one!
go. Okay. All right. Now I
Get
remember.
fucked, bitch, man. Get
He is-
fucked.
I should have went. I
Vance
should
has
have went.
been
cook
like that
food.
image of that guy in class with the veins popping out of his head. It's like no nut November for 5 years. That's what Vance has been like, waiting for you to get on the show. Look at this guy.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Oh, a full screen as well.
Yeah.
Let's get a close up on that. Oh wow. Well,
Fucking
that's my nightmare
glorious.
sorted.
going on, Mitch. Thanks for the raid. How's the matches been? What have you been up to today?
I've just been prepping for these matches, taking a look at some of the games, went out with my dog, and that's been my day. It's been pretty good, to be honest.
What, you didn't eat
Pretty
yet?
chill. What? I haven't eaten dinner. No, it's 9 p.m., but we started at like 4:30, so I didn't have time to cook. Lushko. I'm off the milkshakes.
Can we? Yeah. Okay. We're bringing this back.
come
Here
on.
we go. Here we
No,
go.
okay. Look.
You know
like,
what?
In Mitch's
Yeah.
defense,
He put the guard.
predicted NA to
put the
be on
guard.
top.
Yeah.
He predicted
Worst
NA
team.
to be on top.
We'll give it to him. We'll give it to him.
Right.
I gave the
I'm the
guard the
one.
benefit of the doubt.
I made the fucking absolute brain dead prediction that G2 would win. This fucking inconsistent ball of players with extremities just.
Hey
peeking out
man, you
everywhere.
still had to believe in Nuki, man. If I had a choice, I had to probably believe in Nuki as well.
I thought
man.
they had I thought they would lock Fracture down because they had really good chamber Ray synergy, but fuck me, I was oh god.
Yeah. Let's be real. Just because Vance, he's riding a high, and we'll let him. Yeah, you got the pick right, but the guard was my second choice. FPX was my
You're right.
first choice. We know that, right? So it's I'm not gonna say NA's on top, but y'all were on top. of
No,
this
we
event.
interviewed Chet, and he was like, "Yeah, I mean, M3C are better than us." So
That's the thing, man.
he said they got rolled in scrims against them. So
Yeah. Yeah.
just-
Yeah.
okay.
There's a lot to it. I mean, look, we're used
400
to
Thieves and TSM are going to be just fine against M3C and Masters
No,
2.
no, man.
we're listen. We give Reykjavik to you guys every year. It's going to become a tradition now. It's like a sympathy prize. Like,
It's
hey,
just the
y'all
ugly
bring in
island.
some viewers. Here's a fucking trophy.
I mean, it's kind
Look
of
at
wild
that
though.
island.
The UK
It's so
is still
nice
giving
out
up
there.
land to North America. You guys are decolonizing. I'm very impressed.
Uh,
It's Irish, not British. You have to really see the difference there.
Close enough.
uh,
Let's talk about Gildex then, because obviously, we touched on obviously Anya, being on this roster here and them managing to get. I think they played against Nova, right? So they're 6-0 right now. But were we still expecting them and G2 goes in to sort of be the top competitors as we get into the actual sort of upper end of this? Because G2 already in the upper semis, right? I think Gildex are playing Nomads as we speak, but this 10-star Nova game, right, was a 2-0 on paper. And frankly, I mean, I don't know where's this footage from? I think it wasn't nearly this close in the round of 16, right? It was the 13-8, 13-5.
It was
This is
13-8
Swiss.
for
Okay,
Invictus.
so this is
This is the
before.
Swiss best of one.
before-
Oh, Swiss, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think just to quickly answer the first question of are these still the heavy hitters? Are these still the big guys? I can't say for sure about Guild, but after watching G2 today, like they have not slowed down. They've gotten 10 times better from where they were before. Like their
Okay.
synergy is absolutely unbelievable right now. Like the way these girls play off each other it's just fucking mind blowing. Honestly, they dismantled Footballist, which a lot of people were hyping up to be, this game that could have been a semifinal. You'd love to see it later on in the tournament, but the reality is, man, like G2, they did not fuck around. They lost a few pistols in there as well. Like they gave up so little room. It was crazy.
You know
Yeah,
what I
that's
think
actually.
the-
Sorry,
Sorry.
man.
I think, no, good. The biggest impact, I think, at this level right here, Mitch, is the coaches. They have Carcass at G2. They have Emil, right, former NIP coach at GeldX. I think elevating the game in Game Changers is really something where a coach can have maybe even a bigger impact than in, like, let's say, the regular VCT we have, so to say, regular. So I think that those two, especially with GeldX, it felt a lot like from series to series, from tournament to tournament, Emil was really having a bigger impact on the team again and again. And they're not perfect yet, But it feels like that can be really a game changer, literally, actually, within that tournament. So I'm really excited what the future holds with particularly that, because so far I've seen nothing that looked like boring strats, boring set pieces, very dull approaches. It all looked like, sometimes, I don't know how it was with you, but it feels a lot like sometimes it even looks more elaborately planned than regular VCT.
I'll say actually, for G2, they almost give. Well, it's tough to say. I don't want to say the opposite vibes, because I think there is certainly a lot of pre-planning there. You see it in some of the setups that they have. But the thing that blows me away about G2 the most, it's why I actually think that the Guild G2 game, if we do get it, will be insane, is that G2 thinks so well on their feet, right? Whenever they're put in a situation, we made the comment today during the stream that, like, for G2, it feels like a lot of the time you could pause a round with 50 seconds left, and you look at the mini map and go, well, G2 are fucked, right? They're trapped in this corner. They've got no information. These teams all around them. And then just like bam, 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 4 kills. They're on the site planting, and you're like, wait, what the fuck? How did that happen? But when you look at how some of these rounds actually play out, at how the players are maneuvering around, you'll have your breach flashes coming through at just the same time that you'll have Mimi peek, take like a distraction, and then Giuliano from another angle comes through. The way they bait and switch, the timing on it, this sort of stuff is like not something you can expect the majority of our player base to be able to do. And I think purely because G2 have played at the top level in CS for such a long time as a core, and they're bringing in these other players. They've got their coach of Carcass there, who has a ton of professional experience, is a fucking insane player in and of himself. And he is there watching from the backlines, knowing what a good team should look like, knowing when he looks at these roles, like, oh, I would like this kind of communication here. I'd like it to be packaged like this, whatever it is. He's able to provide that. So I think 100% with you on the coaching point that, like, they are a massive difference maker in, I guess, streamlining these teams. For me, after what I saw from G2, it's almost like old G2 vibes, right? Like the one that we hated, the super loose, Team Mixwell run around and do whatever the fuck you want, of Ignition series. It's like they have the ability to do that. They've harnessed that, but they've got the tactical backbone now as well. It's like all the criticisms that we had of that old style are chipped away at. They're dealt with, and they've built this beautiful way of playing CS in Valorant, essentially. It's really fun to watch.
What can you tell us about the other side of the bracket? Because we have BBL Queens, Case Hydra, Rebels, Rick's GG Lightning, and obviously the winner of that is going to be advancing to the other side of the bracket. So we'll have like a Guild X G2 goes and match up we will have that again here. Tell us about the lower side of the bracket though, and what we should expect to see from those teams, because I think what I'm seeing is orgs from a lot of different countries here.
Well, Rebels, I think, are, at least for me, the team that draw my eye there. I think they're a Spanish team, from what I remember, but they've been dominating on the way through it. A little bit of a struggle against Alliance, but other than that, they've been looking clean. I think I heard a lot of hype around them before, and I'm not sure that they necessarily delivered to where they were expected to, let's say.
Okay.
But now I think they, with a little bit more prac under their belt, they're refined enough, let's say, to do some big damage this time.
What I find so dang remarkable about players like these is, like, a player like Scarlet, for example. The girl's 17 years old. This is her first tournament. This is like her first VLR registered tournament. And the other ones also played like maybe one other Game Changers or so. And they're coming into this and looking that damn strong. Is like, this is the crazy part about Game Changers, because every time I cast a new Game Changers from 1 to 2 to 3, it feels like I get to know a new team that I didn't see like this before, but that suddenly just came out of nowhere and plays dang good Valorant. And that is also the crazy part about this tournament for me, is where it always looks like it can be just better and better every single time. It's never a decrease of performance, and new faces are rising as well. So I think the mission statement of Game Changers from tournament to tournament seems to be fulfilled again and again. So that lower bracket with, for example, Rebels, as you just mentioned, the other Spanish one would be Case. I think that's the right name to pronounce them, or something like that. It's also looking kind of interesting because, again, those players surely known over a longer stage, but they also played a few Game Changers here and there, right? That's pretty much it. They've always been present, also like under the Giants banner, but they always bounce back. And it's remarkable to me that we always see new faces who just adapt to the game so fast.
So that said, do we still expect to see G2 goes and sort of come out on top here? Mitch, you said they're looking 10 times better. Looks like
I
competition
think so.
overall is sort of increased, and it was only a best of 1 in Swiss, right? I mean, congrats, of course, to Mimi for being named 30 under 30 in sports and games for Europe. So that's pretty fantastic. But does this team go all the way again? Is there just a huge gap, or is it closing? What do we expect to see for those like last 3 or 4 matches?
I think there's a struggle against some of the teams,
Yeah.
maybe like a Rix or Rebels. You know, if Diddy has a pop-off game on Rebels and the Chamber Headhunters are hitting, but really, I think, you know, we're looking at G2, we're looking at Guild, and for the most part, I think those 2 teams should make the finals again. I think for someone to knock them off that pedestal, it's not impossible, but they do seem to be playing like a different level of Valorant, especially G2. Look, if G2 don't make the finals, I would be gobsmacked at this point the way they played today.
True. I mean, there's not much more to add. I think the only thing that really can be just said though is you've touched it earlier on the point with the coaches, right? And where you say that this really makes a big difference. And I think that is the case, especially at the beginning stages of Game Changers, but also going deeper. There seems to be a bigger discrepancy between teams from time to time, where you really realize they've hit like the next stage, the next level, the next way of playing the game. And that's sometimes how it feels. But I think also from Game Changers to Game Changers, it has gotten better, right? It has not only that we only see like 2-3 teams playing proper. For example, that Rebels Velvet team is something I didn't necessarily expect to perform that well, right? But they've beaten Alliance Coven so far in this tournament, in like the upper bracket we had. So it is that thing where they close in. But at the same time, I just don't know if it will be just the entire year G2 goes and winning, because I kind of could see that happening, unfortunately.
All right. I mean, we see that reflected in NA to a degree as well. I think that fuels a fun narrative for the first time we actually get these regions to play internationally, right? So, you know, yes, would it be maybe a little disappointing to see such a huge gulf between 1 and 2 in both regions? Yes, but at least it gives us, you know, still something to look forward to internationally. That's what we got time for today. Zescht, thanks for coming on the show, man. Great to have you here, and we managed to get some really good insights there.
Super fun.
You know, obviously we talked about FaZe, we talked about franchising here, and talked about game changers. So great to benefit from your expertise there.
Anytime.
Mitch, good to have you here for a brief moment, mate. I hope you've, you know, found some space to recover, of course, from Masters. What's coming up?
Congrats and good job for Masters, by the way, man. Despite
Thank you,
NA
brother.
winning and me,
Yeah, you
grilling
weren't dog shit. It was great.
Look, my aim every show is not to be dog shit. So
Yeah, man,
we've
that was
hit it.
perfect.
We've hit it. Let's go, baby.
Checked.
Yeah,
Nailed
man,
it.
it was awesome. It was a lot of stress. Good to have a trip to Amsterdam afterwards and unwind. So I'm feeling refreshed, feeling ready to go at Game Changers. We got
Feeling
the
mellow.
caster stream tomorrow, Thursday off, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday official broadcast closing out Game Changers, and then back on with y'all fuckers on Tuesday. I hope.
Yeah. That's going to be a lot of fun. Obviously, our 100th episode. So again, thanks to you guys. Thanks, obviously, Zescht. Big shout out to UpMind as well, who joined us earlier on the show. Talk about VCT and Juv3nile as well, coach of TSM. Some fantastic insights. Great guests today. If you're just joining us late, you can check us out, of course, at youtube.com/valoranting. Definitely don't want to miss that. We're also on TikTok. We're also on the Instagram. But for now, that's all from us. We're going to see you next week, 11 a.m. episode 100. We've got some special stuff in store for you then. So look forward to it. See you next week.